Derivative Jill.
Greetings and felicitations.
Hello, I am Anti-Derivative Jill, and this is Indefinite Lunch in Infinite Combinations number 77. Today, we're reviewing the next original series episode in production order for Star Trek, and it's The Ultimate Computer. And I'm so happy about that. And happy to have my panel guest today, or panel co-host, pop culture curator, and it's great to see you here.
Likewise, hello, Scotty, hello, Jill, hello to everyone in the chat. Good to see everyone.
Yeah, I want everyone to be sure to catch your live stream later on tonight. The Cronenberg scanners.
Yes, we will be covering Scanners from 1991. Uh, if you're into that sort of thing, sci-fi horror, please feel free to join us on the Pop Culture Curator channel. Thank you.
And also hello to Scotty R37. Make sure you're following him on Twitter for all of your fun absurdity.
I am absurd. Thank you. Hello,
You're
computer.
welcome. And also hello to everybody in the chat. It's great to see you here today. And so for reference to the production of these episodes, some of the facts I'll share come from the Star Trek 365 original series book by Paul M. Block and Terry J. Erdman. As I first saw on the TOS reviews on the Clobberin Times channel with Raquel Briggs for their Saturday night Star Trek, which is really, really cool. We just reviewed Tuvix. That was I had to go out of town, so I wasn't there for the whole review, but I snuck in for that part of the review. And so Saturday Night Star Trek is really great. Check it out. Saturdays at 9 p.m. Central. But I also have a few things today. I managed to read some of These Are the Voyages. Not all of it, but I checked out a few bits. So let's check out The Ultimate Computer. I'm so excited because this episode means a lot to me. And it's obviously very relevant today as well as it was when it was created, considering the advancements in the simulation of artificial intelligence that we're making today. Other automated vehicles.
I would say even more so today than it was in the 60s.
Right. In the 60s, it was science fiction. Today, it's near future science fiction, or already practically here, at least in the simulated format, as far as the artificial intelligence goes.
Yes.
And so we're not too far off from a lot of these things, a lot of the issues of obsolescence in terms of jobs going away and possibly new jobs replacing them, but I don't know if enough jobs are going to be replacing the jobs that are going to go away. So that is a big kind of a little bit scary thing.
You make jobs obsolete, you make people obsolete.
Right. In order to figure this out, you have to look at a bunch of statistics, so I don't know exactly what's going to happen. But before I begin with the slides, I'll give away the basic summary, so no one has to worry about giving away spoilers, because we're, of course, talking about a 56-year-old TV show. I'm going scene by scene, so I don't mind if anybody wants to go out of order, if there's something you really want to mention. And it starts with one of the great spot quotes in this episode. Computers make excellent and efficient servants, but I have no wish to serve under them. Captain, a starship also runs on loyalty to one man, and nothing can replace it or him. So, informed that the Enterprise is to serve as a test vehicle for the experimental M5 computer, Kirk worries that Starfleet's need for human captains and crews may be at an end. But while the M5 handles its first test flawlessly, it soon begins to act erratically, destroying an unmanned drone vessel. And not long after, dozens of innocent crew members involved in the war games being conducted by Starfleet. With the computer's own inventor unable to pull the plug on what he sees as his greatest creation, Kirk realizes that Starfleet may have no choice but to destroy M5 and with it, the Enterprise. And so that's how I'll start share my screen. And I'll also say hello to the chat before I get started here. I just want to say hello to Franco Walker. He was the first one here today. And he already gives away his rating, A+ in the poll. And it'll be pretty obvious how much I love this episode too. Snornapupus Cuber is also here and says this is an exciting and thought-provoking episode during which 1/3 of Starfleet's Constitution-class ships are knocked out at one get-go. Imagine the strategic implications for the Federation. That is a great point. I love that point because they do use some very high-class ships for their little war games. Mark Harkness says that, like Pearl Harbor, is somewhat distorted. True, Excalibur is wrecked, but Lexington will probably be docked for 36 months. And Hood and Potemkin will be down for maybe a month. Could have been worse. All right.
Well, there was, the small matter of 430 people dead.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, I think Mark Harkness was just talking about the ships themselves, but clearly, yeah. The hundreds of people who died, yeah, that's definitely a big loss. A huge, huge loss.
Hey, Franco. Hey, Poopus.
And that's the whole point of the episode is that's how M5 discovers that it has gone against what it should be doing. Since we were never told how heavily the ships were damaged, other than Excalibur's crew being wiped out. And some casualty figures, we shall never know what the repair times were. And I heard from because I listened to just a little bit of the Enterprise Incident podcast, and they had on somebody who worked on the remaster, Robert something. Sorry, I forget his name, but he said that they wish they had extra time to actually give the ship some damage so we could see how poorly they did.
I was hoping they would have done that, but I still enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, with the remastering, and this is something that I've been heralding when rewatching. I've been going through these not with the original special effects, but with the remaster. I do like how it's not overtly a special edition or a change, and so it still is keeping with the spirit and the intent of what they could have done in the 60s. And while it's a little bit perkier, like when it comes to drawing power from the warp engines, there's a reflection of the power beam on engineering deck floor. Like stuff like that is kind of a neat touch. The only thing I was really looking for is I kind of wanted a little bit of smoke or battle damage on the bridge of the Lexington. But aside from that, I'm glad that they didn't go back and add any battle damage or scarring or anything like that, just because it would have changed stuff.
Oh, hey, that's a good point. Gavin Blackburn says, who is the bigger whack job, M5 or HAL 9000?
It's a good question, Gavin.
What was it, M5 or Daystrom?
Well, M5 being a product of Daystrom.
Exactly.
Yeah, what was the difference?
Mm-hmm.
Except well, the big difference is one had more experience and the other didn't, and the lack of experience made a huge difference. And glad you're here, Gavin Blackburn. Landrew is still my favorite crazy computer. That's a pretty good one. This, of course, is another one of Kirk talking the computer to death. And Mark Harkness says, Hal was merely trapped in a quandary where he was told to lie, but he couldn't reconcile lying. M5 was out to show them all, right? Because he is supposed to revolutionize everything and save man from being aboard starships or having to risk their lives, but in so doing, of course, taking them, which is the point of the episode. I love it so much I can't help it. Sub-Commander Tall says, greetings. And Jay Godwin says, I love this episode, not because it predicts Elon Musk's attempt at autopilot, in cars. Oh yeah, that's a good point. I definitely prefer driving the car myself right now. Wow, that is really great parallel there. Good going. Sub Commander Tall says everybody likes this episode, yet you don't see it in a lot of top 10 lists. I prefer it over the Corbinite Maneuver and even Devil in the Dark. Well, Devil in the Dark is my favorite, but yes, I think I put this might be in my top 5 too. Top 10.
And we have a parallel with that episode in this one.
Oh yeah, definitely. You mean in terms of actors, right?
Yes.
And hello to Sci-Fi Mombi. Hey. And also hello to Jay Goodwin. And
Hello,
yes,
everyone.
he is a sympathetic, flawed character. Daystrom, yeah, I never saw him as a villain at all. Of course not. I mean, he has some problems.
Yeah, that's something that I thought, of course we'll cover that when we get to the end, but they don't really cover what happens to him at the
And
end.
speaking of your computer taking over your life and what you're supposed to be doing, Scotty R37's computer decided that his virus detection software decided that his computer needed a reboot instantly. And so that is why he dropped out.
Oh, Windows.
It's not often that you have the episode actually reflected in real life live on air. That's hilarious.
It's a mutiny, I tell you, mutiny.
Exactly. Which brings us to the question of the novelization part of the Star Trek canon. Despite it being panned by the great bird himself, some say it isn't, some say it is. What? Really? Oh, the novelization. Interesting, sort of Poopus. You know quite a bit. And hello to Raymond Feliciano of King Dolphin TV. Make sure you check out King Dolphin TV for amazing interviews and lots of fun on Saturdays.
Hello, Raymond. Good to see you. Say hello to Sandra.
M5 is just Chat GPT version 47, says Gorilla. He's always good with the jokes. But that's a particularly good one because it's not too far off. Of course, Chat GPT is only a simulation of an AI, but that's how it starts.
That's how it starts, yes.
And Mark Harkness says guest star William Marshall voiced another erratic genius in 1983's Spider Friends during a turn as Tony Stark. Oh,
he also played
cool.
Blackula.
Oh, that sounds fun. And hello. Oh, yeah. And welcome, Franco Walker. The first.
Hello, Franco. Hail.
And Mark 57. Oh, hold on. Wait a minute here. I've got. Hey, hello, Six. $25? What?
Wow. Very, very kind.
That is so extremely generous. Thank you so much, Six. You are so amazing. She says, woohoo, congrats on monetization, Jill. Thank you so much. You know, one thing I want to do is kind of like what Bird does, to play little videos that just automatically happen and interrupt me. But I think I need to figure out OBS to get that going.
Or a Stream Deck.
That.
I think you may have a Stream Deck, which might help.
Oh, that. Okay. Well, I'll get into that later. Anyway. Gavin Blackburn sent a 149 super sticker. Let's see what that was. That was a little popcorn. Nice.
Very cool.
Thank you. Thank you, Gavin.
Very much appreciated, everyone.
No kidding. Oh, and Franco fell asleep. You know, I didn't fall asleep today. No naps. Way too excited for that. I haven't even started the review yet, and I'm just going wild for it. And JT Kirk says people are always freed up to do different work, and then there will always be work that needs to be done. Yes, that's what I'm hoping. You know, definitely the future brings lots of different. The jobs of the future will be different than the current jobs, and so as the jobs that we have today die out, the hope is.
I know, right? It's easier said than done. You have to remember people have to completely re-educate themselves. So
exactly. Everybody basically needs to be a programmer. Everybody learn computer science. Well, I mean, everybody in terms of children. You guys probably don't have to.
It's too well, and it's as Dr. McCoy said, you know, everybody feels bad for the other guy when their job gets replaced by a machine, but it's different when it's you.
Right.
Yeah, like look at
5 plus.
self-checkout. Look at the fully automated McDonald's, things that you would commonly think of as being sort of entry-level teenage jobs. But without those entry-level teenage jobs, are you taking away the responsibility of the youth?
Yeah, what's
There's some
interesting
of
is,
that.
and Kapla Bird of Prey, good to see you, sir.
Yes.
But what's interesting is, like for example, in California, they demanded higher wages, which prompted the automated McDonald's, and now they're demanding higher wages even again. Now they want $20 an hour. Do you believe it?
Well,
Imagine
it's funny.
what-
I had a dream the other day that I was at a self-checkout and I had one like fairly thick and heavy steak. This is all in my dream. It's all my subconscious. It means nothing. And I had this dream that I had to be able to scan the steak. And unfortunately, it seemed that the paper covering the steak was covering the barcode. And so we tore open the steak, the paper around the steak. There was no barcode. And
Oh,
so
no.
my mom, who was in this dream, again, not really there, subconscious, whatever, night things, she's like, why don't you just put it in the bag and we can steal it? And it was the first time that my mom had ever advocated for theft. So I thought it was great. This is what I'm saying, is that people are talking about the price of groceries, and it's like $78 for like 4 items at the grocery store. And it's like, well, if you use self-checkout, you know, you can whittle that down. No, I only got a box of Twinkies. I didn't buy this.
Right now,
Oh
they're
my
actually
goodness.
talking about upcycling humans. So we all know what that means.
Oh my God! What?
Yes.
That really derails what I was gonna say.
Oh, sorry. But yeah, they are. World
Oh,
Health
what are
Organization
you
is starting
talking
to
about?
urge it. Upcycling humans. They don't want to say recycle, so they're saying upcycle.
What, like Soylent Green?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, what
That's
on earth are you
exactly what they're
talking about?
saying. That's exactly what
Who's
they're saying.
saying?
That's why they said they're shutting down
Who's
a lot of
they?
farmlands, like beef, cattle, pork. They said they're
Oh
actually
my
using the term
goodness!
upcycling humans. I know it's hard
This
to
is,
believe, but
you
yeah.
know, I might actually have another
I don't
life
believe it.
about this particular issue of automation, and because this episode inspires me so much that I am going to write it down as a potential Friday show to talk about just in general.
Isn't there like a physiological, neurological impairment that happens if people eat people?
Well, if we can
Well,
change
it's
things,
awful. It's
if we can,
cannibalism. I'd really,
right, if we could
it's a
change things on
completely
the,
different topic.
but if we could change things on a genetic level, I'm sure they can get past something like that.
I mean, I was just gonna say
Sorry
there
about changing
are.
the topic, right? Or
Yeah, exactly.
off
I
topic.
just wanted to say that yes, we do have self-checkout lanes, but there are also
It's because we ate
there's
all the
always
checkout
a
girls.
person. There is a person. Isn't there a person manning your self-checkout? Like
Sometimes.
there are
Yes.
4 of them, and then there's a person there in case there's a problem.
I would
Because
say sometimes
that's
I've seen a
exactly
person.
that exactly parallels this episode. You can automate a lot of it, but something sometimes still goes wrong with technology, and that's this episode. And I want to say hello to Six and Devil
6
Flyer Momentum. Hey.
Hail.
DFM.
A gorilla wants me to play It's a Trap in this.
Which part?
And JT Kirk says 9,000 is greater than 5. Therefore, how 9,000 was crazier. Well, there was definitely some crazier dialogue, but they had a lot more time to build up all of that craziness in how and this one only gives us like 20 minutes to do it. And how can lip read? Yes. And hello to Sean Carter. Hey, great
Hail,
to see
Sean.
you guys here.
Hope you're doing well, Sean. Good to see you.
Great to see everybody. Gorilla says, or it would be like the Bing AI because it's emotional and threatens people. Really? It does? Oh man, I missed that. Bird of Prey 5 says, need OBS or like for autoplaying videos? No love with StreamYard. Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense because I figured out how to play GIFs. It's probably the same way you play GIFs. And I'm sure I can figure it out. I'm a computer scientist. Also, not as good as Daystrom or my husband, but I'm pretty good.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about OBS. I've heard there's somewhat of a learning curve, but other than that, I'm sure it's got a lot of features over and better beyond StreamYards.
Mm-hmm. And JT Kirk says M5 would open and close the pod bay doors when asked. And what happened here? Oh, okay. It was just a report. And hello to Sandra Feliciano.
Sandra.
Hello, Sandra.
Let's get to The Ultimate Computer. First aired on March 8th, 1968. The story by credit goes to Lawrence Wolfe, with the teleplay by DC Fontana, and it was directed by John Meredith Lucas. Also produced. So he was producing and directing, doing a ton of work in this episode. And we'll get to the writing of this episode, but the first shot here with the starbase, which is why I've been stuck on this slide for so long and I needed to mention, is notable because in the original we have K7 from The Trouble with Tribbles. But here in the remaster, it was redone by Michael Okuda and his team. And it looks like it looks like Starbase 47 from a Star Trek series of novels called Vanguard. So it's kind of neat that something non-canon became canon in this way, thanks to someone who actually, a creator, a helper of Star Trek, who actually knows what he's doing, like Michael Okuda, and I think that is so cool.
Well, and they do upgrade the robot ore ship from one of the cargo ships from the animated series as well.
Yes, I thought about that too, just like from the animated series.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. Thank you for mentioning that. I was wondering where I'd seen that from, and I remembered the animated series, but I couldn't remember exactly where. Thank you.
And there's Mr. Leslie's cameo.
Oh, yes, Mr. Leslie.
No,
Not now, Mr. Leslie.
Well,
not now, Leslie. Just not now, Mister. He barely even gets a name.
well, he's one of the 20 people who is left on the ship when M5 takes effect. And the AI show says the problem isn't simply that technology displaces and replaces jobs, but if the jobs eliminated had good pay and benefits, that's because those jobs can't be replaced. That's awfully bold of you to assume I wouldn't eat a person, says Gorilla. Well, you're a gorilla. You have completely different standards. It's not cannibalism for you.
Gorillas are
Harambe.
herbivores now, gorilla.
Are they? They're not omnivores?
No.
I believe you.
They're
No,
definitely
yeah,
not
you're right.
carnivores. But a gorilla is gorilla. You never know, right?
I don't know. They're not. Yeah, you're right. I think I knew that, but I didn't. I wasn't in gorilla mode. You know quite a bit about gorillas. And hello to Miss Martin Muses.
Hello, Miss Martin.
Nobody makes that mistake with the polar bear for sure.
Oh, Poopus. Bear is driving. How can that be?
You just have to construct the car a little bit differently to fit a bear.
Bigger seat belts.
And Sulu's back also. So, well, he was back in the last episode, but this time he gets to do stuff.
Yeah, this is a classic 7 all on deck.
Mm-hmm. And this is he was back last week, but this is the first time he gets to shoot with Walter Koenig, and the 365 book has something to say about this. So I want to read that. Ooh. Let me make this larger. After completing the first season of Star Trek, George Takei took advantage of the series hiatus by accepting an offer to appear in The Green Berets with legendary actor John Wayne. The film shooting schedule indicated that Takei would be back in Hollywood in time to resume his role as Sulu in Star Trek Season 2. Things didn't work out as planned. The movie went over schedule, and the actor was absent during the filming of 14 Star Trek episodes. During the absence, many scenes originally written for Sulu were adapted for a new character, Chekhov, played by Walter Koenig. 3,000 miles away, Takei couldn't help but develop a grudging resentment for the person he knew only as the usurper of his position. When he finally returned to the Star Trek set just in time to shoot Return to Tomorrow, he learned that Koenig, as Chekhov, wasn't in this episode. The dreaded confrontation had been delayed. But while Koenig was set to appear in the following episode, Patterns of Force, Takei as Sulu was not. It wasn't until the third script following Takei's return, The Ultimate Computer, that he finally would have the opportunity to meet the interloper who had taken his place. Prepared to dislike Koenig, Takei stepped into the trailer that the two men were being asked to share for the day and heard Koenig complaining loudly about something. Takei initially assumed that it was about sharing the trailer, a situation that he was equally prepared to complain about. But he quickly learned that Koenig was complaining about the mop-like Beatles wig that he had been ordered to wear, until his hair grew longer. In a flash of insight, Takei understood that his rival was simply a fellow actor, feeling much the same angst and insecurity about his job that he himself was feeling. After that, the two became fast friends, and Sulu and Chekhov became an iconic team throughout the rest of the series and the subsequent movies. There you go. There's our little foray into our side characters.
Yeah, that's great
And
that they
with
got along in real life, because you could see that they had good on-screen chemistry as well.
They sure did, right? And I think I always say that they're the inspiration and for Gordon and Lee and in the Orville. And Sean Carter says William Marshall Daystrom played a video pirate in the hilarious movie Amazon Women on the Moon in a $5 super chat.
Yes,
Mhm.
a hilarious movie. I highly recommend it.
Is it a good movie?
Oh yes, it's a parody
Amazon
movie that's
Women
got like
on the
a bunch
Moon.
of short clips.
Yeah, it's like a sketch anthology, kind of like Kentucky Fried Movie.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, that sounds like a lot of fun.
It
But
is.
also, my
Sounds
big favorite for William
seen that.
Marshall's other claim to fame is Blackula. In the heyday of the
Yeah,
blaxploitation film of the 70s,
pop
he
culture
played the
mentioned
Black
that one.
Dracula. Love it.
That is pretty great. Where was that here? Oh, Matt G is here, and hello to Susan Dolan.
Hey, Susan.
Hello, Matt G. Good to see you. Hello, Susan.
And Mark Harkness didn't mind the look of the Woden. He assumed it was DY 500. Oh, wait a minute. I'm showing everybody's links there.
Huh.
Forgot I was doing that. Little production.
And I want to
behind
say
the
hello to
scenes there.
Suzanne Eckstein. I saw her name pop up in the chat. Good to see you, Suzanne. Hope you're doing well.
Oh yeah. Hello, Suzanne. Thank you for spotting her.
Suzanne.
And Gavin Blackburn says 2001 A Space Odyssey opening in April 68. Oh, the same year. I wonder how much of it, if at all, that movie influenced the script. But weren't they working on that movie for a long time?
Yes.
I don't know. I think they both made their own separate creations separately, and so they just both happened to be about a computer taking over the ship.
Well, remember Twilight Zone had an episode about automation taking over human people. So it's something that had been discussed previously.
Oh, absolutely. When I say that, I mean Starship in particular. But yes, you're absolutely right. I love the Twilight Zone in terms of coming up with such amazingly in-depth science fiction concepts. It's one of my favorites. So Takei was bitchy even then. He was probably made more money filming the Green Berets than he would have on Treks of Snarkoopus. And Franco says that's great trivia. Yeah, that's why I love reading that book, even though you guys might have heard it a couple years
Now
ago.
that's the same
Love
book
to
that you
hear it
said was
again.
written by Mark Cushman. Is that right?
No. 365 was Paula M.
Oh,
Block and
oh,
Terry
I thought you
Shepard.
mentioned.
But
I thought you mentioned These Were the Voyages. Sorry.
These Are the Voyages is written by Mark Cushman, yes, and that's also a very good book. And the AI show, hey, the AI show says, I always thought Takei made a mistake taking part in that crappy film, The Green Berets. The movie was a joke at the time. It also probably robbed him of decent scenes on Star Trek.
Well, it was a somewhat controversial film just because, as John Wayne was John Wayne, and very pro-America, it was one of the few pro-American Vietnam films made at the time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and this guy Enright, who's doing a voiceover, is played by Jimmy Doohan, since we never see him. And he says that the explanation of why you're here is transporting.
And we will hear him again. And by the way, In hindsight, nobody knew that. They thought the Green Berets was going to be a huge smash. Now all these years later, we could say, yeah, George Takei should have stuck to Star Trek, but they didn't realize that then. So for him, it could have been a leaping off point to a bigger career.
Right. You think it's a war movie, it's going to do well.
I know, but
it's a good assumption.
It was mired in controversy for several reasons, unfortunately.
Well, and even at that time, John Wayne's sort of star power hadn't fully petered out. He was still going strong until the early 70s.
He was. Yes.
So that would be like that would have been like John Wayne's eraser, like the beginning of the downfall of the falling of his celebrity status.
Well, he was offered the role that Clint Eastwood took in Dirty Harry, and he turned it down. He thought it would go nowhere. And then it was a smash success, and he regretted that, and then started making some knockoffs.
Yes.
And we get somebody here who was on The Devil in the Dark.
Mm-hmm. Barry Russo, I think.
Quickly promoted, yes. Quickly promoted.
Different character.
Yes, different character. I was just kidding.
No, fair enough. Just for specificity.
Hey, this is also a very killer teaser. I really love it. Kirk has to head to the space station without knowing what's going on. And, but then you learn right away that it's all about Richard Daystrom's M5 machine.
Well, and I just want to make sure that we don't lump Commodore Wesley in with the bad Commodores.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the bad Wesley.
No. I don't understand your prejudice. I adore Wesley Crusher.
We get too many Wesleys in Star Trek. It's because it's Gene Roddenberry's middle name. It's like we really want to make sure we remember that name.
That's exactly why he's named that. And you're right. Barry Russo previously played Commander Giotto. Giotto. I was right the first time.
Yep.
In The Devil in the Dark. So definitely that's the thing with this. But I love the M5 in this episode because the author of this episode was really, that's what his whole script was about. And Dorothy Fontana was like, hey, wait a minute. What about our characters? You didn't talk about ours. You just talked about Daystrom and M5. And so that's why she had to rewrite it to make it Star Trek, and to make this really cool idea that Lawrence and Wolf came up with into Star Trek. And so she did that. And I might talk more about that later, but I'll leave that over because I just want to talk about the episode, which is so cool. Spock says the most ambitious computer complex ever created. Its purpose is to correlate all computer activity aboard a starship to provide the ultimate vessel in operation and control. And so this is where we learn that Spock has an A7 computer expert classification. I like learning little lore like that about Spock. And this isn't just about how Daystrom's computer takes over the Enterprise. It's also the pivotal information about Daystrom is right here. The basic design of all of our ship's computers are Dr. Daystrom. So back when he was really young, he came up with this great new computer system when he was just, in his 20s. And so everyone lauded him for that. But since then, he's been working on this, I guess. And so that's his journey as a computer scientist is a big part of this episode. And the M5 will control navigation and so much more. And so do you think a ship's crew can survive on just 20 crew members? Because
seems low.
It does seem low. Even with the automation, even with the self-checkout, you've got to have somebody to deal with the problems. On the starship, you have to deal with when mechanical things go awry and you need an actual physical engineer to be there. So unless you have exocomps flying around fixing things, you're gonna need some people. And I think even then you would need some. But of course, exocomps come later.
Well, they have to have humans to beam down to the planets. That's something M5 cannot do. And dealing with aliens and everything else, diplomatic reasons, M5 is only limited to what it can actually do.
Exactly. So would 20 crew be enough to satisfy those requirements? Do you think? How many do you think?
Exactly, because everything they come across is unknown. How do they know who they're going to need?
Okay,
Well,
so
and
but how many would you say if the ship were fully automated and all of the little things were being done? How
like
many
you
do
have to
you
take
think you
in.
would need
I would
to
say
do maintenance and to do diplomacy and stuff?
that's what I was saying. I don't know if it would be like if you could just say, well, here's a certain number. It would have to be. I would want at least 2 or 3 people from each department. Like I want 2 or 3 from science. I want 2 or 3 from engineering. The M5 can't do physical repairs if something breaks down, right?
Well, and you'd need security
Exactly.
and medical officers, like mission
Yes,
specialists. We have geologists and exobiologists, and I'm sure a whole host of other mission specialists that you would need. I would say probably like 50, and even then, you would still require a commanding officer, even if everything else was automated.
So in that case, I would take all of the different specialists on the ship and times them by 3. And that'll be how many we need.
Hmm.
yeah,
That
I
makes
would
sense to
agree
me.
with it.
But even
Well, not only that,
security,
this
because
is
if you're beaming
right.
down for first
I like
contact,
that.
you would need that as well.
That
Well,
was
not
that
only
was
that,
my
but
biggest question in this episode.
I know 423 sounds like a lot, but I doubt they're in the habit of wasting with non-essential personnel. I'm sure everyone has a function,
Well, with
so
a
it may be a
5-year
larger
deep space
number.
mission, you would have to sort of plan for long-term variables.
Right, and then remember this: the people who, and let's say if you have 50 people, they have to be relieved at some point, and there's got to be shifts, right?
Yeah.
Sean Carter says Kirk is just upset that the security guard from Devil in the Dark got promoted past him so fast.
But
Right, shame.
Poopa says he always liked Commodore Wesley. He was one of the few senior Starfleet officers who wasn't crazy or incompetent, like Scotty was saying earlier. Great
agreed.
minds
Thanks,
there.
Purpose.
Jay Goodwin says, I got $5 on Nomad versus M5. Well, Nomad gets to float around and stuff. He's got a kind of a freedom of movement that M5 doesn't exactly have, unless you count the starship itself being his freedom of movement.
Well, Nomad also has that kick-ass weapon too. I mean, he could get rid of the M5 in no time.
I think I think Nomad is pretty strong here. The father of V'ger, sort of. The AI show says to Gavin, he was also a joke. Oh, John Wayne never shook the image of being a draft dodger from the Second World War. Let's pause this so I can see what's going on. Oh, I didn't know that. He was also an iconic joke. He was essentially working calcified parody throughout the year, says the AI show. Wow, really?
Well, not according to his star power and the box office numbers at the time.
Yeah.
Like he was responsible for, one of the biggest genres in Hollywood history with the Western, and he was the poster boy. It wasn't really until Sergio Leone's Dollars trilogy that the transition started to happen towards Clint Eastwood, and then Clint Eastwood obviously defined the the modern police action movie with Dirty Harry.
Well, there you go. Oh, yeah. See, I just saw that movie very recently. I love
Great
that.
movie.
That's pretty good.
Great Garrick performance.
Exactly. Everything. I feel like everything is Star Trek.
It's
Uncle
funny. He
Walker.
said that when that movie came out, because he thought that was going to really, his career was really going to skyrocket after that. But he said he did such a great and convincing job as the bad guy that people loathed him. People on the streets, when people saw him and recognized him, it was hard for him to shake it.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
and not only that, but
unfortunate because he's so good.
with Dirty Harry itself, I think it was Pauline Kael and Roger Ebert both called Dirty Harry fascistic in terms of its
What?
dealing with. Yeah, no, they were very, very harsh upon it in terms of the cynicism of what then would have been like a boomer generation wishing for making America great again through the guise of Dirty Harry dispensing justice without the soft laws of the time.
Wow,
And
I didn't
so,
get that at all. I got more like, hey, look, this is my community and I'm going to protect it. That's what I got from Dirty Harry. Like,
but
there
it being
are definitely laws that you have to follow, but and a lot of times some of them
it being the
you've got to do something in the
prototypical.
moment to save lives. And that's
It
what
being the
Dirty Harry was about.
prototypical police off the hook, sort of going rogue and following his own rules.
But he wasn't exactly rogue because he had some conflict with his police, with the other policemen, but they were essentially still supporting him throughout the movie, and I don't see any.
Yeah. Can you imagine something like Dirty Harry in San Francisco now?
I don't get it. I'd feel safer if I
So
went to
I
San
start
Francisco.
Oh yeah, I
blasting.
feel safer, but they never allow it. They don't allow the cops to do their jobs anymore, let alone someone like Dirty Harry.
Well, and just in the same way, just to bring it back to like in terms of the Green Beret and the sort of conservative viewpoint on what America was doing in Vietnam, there was the burgeoning hippie flower child movement who was looking for more social progression. Same deal was happening in the critics of Dirty Harry at the time, in terms of it being too jackbooted in terms of accommodating the what Dirty Harry would call the criminal underworld, but what more liberal minds would call, societal ills. We need more schools. We need more hospitals and treatment programs.
Well,
And so
sure,
that
you
was
need that too.
that was the criticism of the film at the time.
Why can't you have protection and education?
It's just one of the movies that I've been reading about recently in the cinema speculation book by Quentin Tarantino, and so it's interesting that it came up.
Yeah, you do. You definitely do have some knowledge on that one.
Well,
that one sounds like another live stream.
Right, and we got what they wanted. Now it's a free for all.
'Cause I wanna
Crime
argue
has
with
skyrocketed, drug use in the streets, everybody overdosing. So they got what they wanted.
Well, that's not what they wanted.
Also, hello to classic comics.
Pathos and understanding is required to refute an argument.
Well, yes, there is, of course, there's compassion that you're going to have for the people who are having the issues in society, but the answer isn't to let people run into a convenience store and loot everything and say, oh, well, we can't arrest anybody because they're just poor and they need food. Like, of course, yes, we need to help them. There needs to be some avenue. There are food banks, there are churches.
The poor things, right? They need those designer handbags, right? They need those designer handbags and all that jewelry, don't they, the poor things?
But like I said, this is a wildly different topic and a completely different live stream, which I think maybe I'll write that down for another one because I didn't think that I'd want to talk about Dirty Harry on my channel, but now it's
You feeling lucky?
I don't know. We'll find out. The AI show says interesting deep focus here with Commodore and Spock in this scene. Yes, exactly. That's why I'm here. That's why
the framing is amazing.
And Mark Harkness says the government loves automation. As Flag Officer Wesley had to toe the official line, but someone was hoping Kirk plus Spock would find a reason to scuttle the program. Wesley just didn't expect it to get so explosive.
I don't know. I don't think Wesley was on board
shocked.
with, or I don't think that he was against the idea simply because he does sort of provide that barb later on and call Jim Captain Dunsel, which
Captain
is sort
Dunsel.
of that is like an FU to Kirk.
Right, that's what I was thinking. That was kind of disrespectful and insensitive, but I guess it was like to explain to us, the audience, to kind of give us a more of an impact of what's going on. But it was insensitive in real life. You would think there'd be a little more loyalty between the two, where you wouldn't say that.
That was definitely done for dramatic purposes, because he could have easily have made a quip like that in like a little report or something. But to do it on his bridge, in front of also his subordinates too. That's kind of
in front of his crew. Yes.
Classic Comics says, we made a couple of changes to make it closer to the Wrath of Khan era. It's an honor, they tell me. I'm honored. Oh, and Sean Carter for $5 says, Dirty Harry in today's San Francisco is a completely different premise. And yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people really, well, we all got worked up on that. Stay on target. I know, right? I can talk about this movie. It's a really good movie. It's every once in a while, you've got to let yourself live a little, Harry. The AI show says Kale and Ebert did call Dirty Harry fascistic, which at its core, it came close to close to being as a film. Callahan was fundamentally a representation of an out of control law enforcement, not unlike today. Okay, fair point. I'll be willing to examine that critically at some later date. Hail to Susan Eckstein. Your stream has great viewer numbers and the content is top shelf, girl. Bravo. Thank you
Very
so much.
cool.
You're so sweet. But also, Edge of Time is here. Hello, Edge of Time.
Hail,
Edge
Edge
Time.
of Time.
And so, oh, man. We're attempting to
course
prove
is
we
here.
can. Oh,
And
man.
we'll see the M5 again
all
later
these
on in
books.
another episode.
Oh, yeah. And in the Turbo Lift, I missed the great joke. The most unfortunate lack in current computing programming is that there is nothing available to immediately replace the Starship Surgeon. And so I didn't deliver it deadpan like he did, but that's what Spock did. And it was some great Vulcan sarcasm. But Dr. McCoy has a great retort that he'd resign anyway because everyone would then be computers. You know, the type, calling Spock a computer man, which makes Spock a really great character in this episode because as he relates to computers on a logical level and certainly loves them, and however Vulcan loves something, I don't know. All I know is that this clip right here. Oh wait, we're not there yet, but let's play it anyway. This clip is great. I just love it. What was I going to say? There was something I was going to say about that. Oh, right. The reason why I said that quote about the ship surgeon being automated is because, of course, later on in Star Trek and Star Trek Voyager, we see just that occur when we get the emergency medical hologram who becomes the chief medical officer, which, of course, is one of the most outstanding story threads of Voyager, which also happens to be about the evolution of an artificial intelligence who gains independent thought and self-awareness. And, oh, right. And when we first get introduced to this lauded computer programmer who is shown as an expert throughout the episode, the proper way is from the ground because he's kneeling down, he's doing something, because that is what computer scientists, IT professionals, where we usually end up trying to fix what we're working on. Because I was an IT tech and a computer programmer for a company once, and that's how I learned not to wear skirts without pants or shorts or something. But it's so funny to me that I see it as a positive and the actual depiction of a real computer scientist. But when you look behind the scenes, when I looked at the Mark Cushman book, These Are the Voyages, the real reason that this happened in several points during this episode is because of Shatner's ego. So, Bill was working. Okay. Oh, somebody recalled. I didn't get who recalled, but somebody recalled. Bill was working with a black actor, Bill Marshall, who was very tall, and Shatner went for the apple crate. He'd stand on it when they had to do a 2-shot, and then they'd shoot it. Or Bill Shatner would want the scene staged, so Bill Marshall was sort of kneeling on the floor working on something. So you couldn't see how tall he was in comparison. Bill was very protective of his character and his screen image that way.
And his ego.
And of course, Bill Marshall didn't think so highly of it. Normally, normally I won't do that to Bill Shatner. I'll skirt around it, but for this one, I mean, this one's obviously he's very much into being the tallest guy on set. It's kind of funny, but I love you, Bill. I love
Well, it's
too
not
much
the first
about
time
this
the last
episode.
time, right?
Even little things like Scotty waiting for the captain to make the big change to engineering to pull the plug on M5. And I love when Spock says, "Fascinating, Doctor. This computer has a potential beyond anything you've ever done. Even your breakthrough in duotronics did not have the promise of this."
Well, it's a nice little touch where even Daystrom is a bit dismissive of what Spock says, and well, thank you very much, and then continues on what he's saying in terms of M5, which you get to see sort of the psychology of that at the end when
Mhm.
Daystrom's having his breakdown about everyone sort of mocking the boy wonder and building on his work.
He's very proud of his work, and he thinks he doesn't get the recognition that he has been deserving all of this quarter of a century since he created the computer systems for all the starships.
I think he also fears that Spock's going to be the first one to notice the flaws in the computer, because they do mention
And he's
later on that he won't let Spock near it.
Yeah, that was very illuminating. Good job bringing that one up. William Marshall was booked to play Richard Daystrom when he was 43 years old. Let's make this larger. He was classically trained with experience on the stage as well as films and television. Marshall has been cast as doctors, judges, military officers, Harlem detectives,
And Blackula.
African kings, African prime ministers, and oddball intellectuals. His greatest claim to fame came after Star Trek during the era of blaxploitation films. Oh, here it is. In 1972, he played the title character in Blackula, and again in 73 for the sequel, Scream, Blackula Scream. I don't
I
know.
really
Do I
want
need to
those.
see this?
I want to. I've never seen them. I really want to.
Oh yeah, they're
Sounds like
definitely worth
it sounds good.
watching. They're definitely worth watching. They're
Oh,
kind
he's a
of
great
cringe,
actor.
right? They're kind of cringe, but just
Mhm.
keep in mind they were made by black people, so
Well,
they're not a.
I always take into account when the film was made when I watch something.
Yes.
Also, Marshall's true love, however, was Shakespeare, and he finally had a chance to play it before the cameras as Othello in 1981 direct-to-video release. And it definitely makes sense that he's really great. And Marshall was immediately struck by the material. For a 1998 interview with Starlog, he said, "It was an extremely thought-provoking story with an extremely challenging role. Daystrom is a man of science and also a man of great morality, but he's unaware that he is also a man of great arrogance. The concept of reasoning with the machine, structured to one's own cerebral engrams, is haunting." Wow. Marshall knew the role being offered was a rare part for a black man on 1967 American TV. He said, "Roddenberry and company are to be lauded for welcoming the breakthrough." And John Meredith Lucas said, "We were able to use a number of black actors in important parts at the time when television screens were glaringly white. Roddenberry had already stated this, and it was completely in favor of the practice. The Starship Enterprise was crewed by people of all races. Gene and NBC both urged minority involvement in the show. And this, after all, was the future, where such racial acceptance was natural." But Marshall had been given the script only days before the production. He said, "I felt like I only had minutes to prepare for this role. I had a lot of lines to learn. It was a last minute job, but I liked the role. As a challenge it presented, Star Trek was a relatively rich experience." And Susan Dolan says gorillas having a very long uppercase and lowercase canines, so yes, they do eat meat. Oh. Oh. Oh, they do? You see, because I have heard conflicting reports that they're vegetarians, but especially if it wanders too close. But that makes sense. Like it would make sense that they're herbivores, but maybe opportunistic carnivores if they have to be, like the opportunistic omnivores, rather.
Well, they'll use them in defense, obviously.
Mhm.
Like if someone comes in their territory, they'll use them to kill, but I don't know if they'll eat the prey.
And it looks like Bird of Prey's got to take off. Dr. Time, later all.
Oh,
Take care,
okay.
Bird of Prey.
Have a good appointment, Bird of Prey 5. I hope to see you later. And the AI show says, and the sequel to Dirty Harry, Magnum Force did deal directly with law enforcement vigilantism directly, with Callahan facing off with the cops who took the law into their own hand. And that's cool that the sequels addressed what Dirty Harry itself brought forth. That's neat.
Again,
And
interesting thoughts from Tarantino on that sequel. As it's one of the few times that you have a sequel where it not only changes the character to be against what it was in the first movie, but also against the force that that Dirty Harry stood for in the first. It's like a movie that addresses the first one and says, "Remember that? Sorry."
Maybe they did that directly because of the criticism.
Could be. Let's not forget, these aren't documentaries. These are actors who are trying to raise their own stars and celebrity. And so if you don't want to court the controversy, you got to do something that'll get general audience butts in seats. So that's why I sort of forgive Bill and his image and his desire for more starlight, if for lack of a better term, is because these are actors. Like, go stand over there, say what we told you to say, move the way we wanted you to do. These aren't, this isn't Jesus. They're just people trying to be artistes. So good for
well,
them.
sometimes though, an actor can put in their own take on the role and make it their own in terms of how they perform it and how.
For sure. But I do think that, anybody who does sort of seek the spotlight does have a certain level of narcissism in them. While they may have stories to tell or truths to speak, they are ultimately, look at me.
You can see a false hairline in that still.
And a adventure awaits you. Off-world, come see the edge of time. Okay. Hey, edge of time. And the AI show says Shatner was frankly greedy as an actor on Star Trek. Writer Harlan Ellison said Bill came over to his house to ask for him to write more lines for him in the episode he wrote for TOS.
Oh, remember, he still had to eat humble pie. After the series, he was living out of a trailer for a while, so.
Yeah, and he would talk about that too.
Uh-huh.
Susan Dolan says Gorilla have okay, I read that one twice. 1.5 times. Jay Goodwin says, I'm not sure Daystrom knows the flaws, he's just very defensive. He also views M5 as his own child. Yes, absolutely, especially since he imprints himself upon it. This is one of Marshall's best roles, says the AI show. I agree. And Susan Dolan says Chekhov, according to the making of Star Trek, was added to draw teenagers into watching Star Trek. Yes, that explains his hair also. And there was something by Mark Harkness earlier that I liked that I didn't read. Oh, right. Okay, I'm going to pause it here. That's an important scene. Jim and Wesley were friends. I think it was a barb to try and get Kirk to respond. Oh, right, when he calls him Dunzel. Wesley may think his prodding pushed Kirk too far. The only way I can reconcile Kirk's opinion with Wesley's actions. Yeah.
Well,
and he might have just thought he was just poking fun with his friend, but that's not something you need to be doing on the bridge.
Well, and as we get into this scene where Kirk and McCoy are having their conversation in the corridor, talking about, am I afraid to give up this power? Am I afraid
Am I
of the
that
prestige?
petty?
And so the answer is that if it is just playful prodding that Bob Wesley offers, then the answer, Jim, is yes, you are, because just friendly, oh, you little ragamuffin, you don't even have to do nothing, Captain Dunsel. Oh, I'm gonna go to my quarters now. I'm gonna go play with my Wii.
He does fall into it a little bit, but then that makes another great scene. But we'll get to that in a little bit because first I had to play this clip. These couple clips I missed.
There are certain things men must do to remain men.
And so this particular clip I clipped. Okay, so I was going to make more clips today, but it turns out I already made these clips a long time ago for my Starfleet technical manual video for how to turn your cursor into the Enterprise, or really whatever you want, provided you have the right file extensions on Windows 10. But this isn't about that. This is about how I love this episode so much that I made this clip for my outro for that video about tech. And so that's why I'm just thanking past Jill for my work.
I don't like it, Jim. A vessel this size cannot be run by one computer.
We are attempting to prove that it can run this ship more efficiently than man.
M5 is ready to take control of the ship.
Total control.
That is what it was designed for, Captain.
Did you see the love light in Spock's eyes? The right computer finally came along.
I
Superb.
love that every time. It's so wonderful.
Well, and again, it's a very good, like, just in terms of the characterization. I know there are a lot of heady issues that come along with the automation and the replacement of men doing jobs, but it's a really good character, performance-wise. Like as you mentioned, the camaraderie between Sulu and Chekhov. You can see the frustration on Uhura's face when things are sort of taken over by M5 and she's powerless to run her station. And the friendship between Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, here specifically with McCoy and Kirk.
Yeah, I kind of wondered why they would have kept her there. Why? Because remember, they kept what they thought was only essential personnel. Then why did they keep her? She was pretty much blocked out of doing anything and everything during the whole mission.
Look, I have one job on this lousy ship. It's stupid, but I'm gonna do it, okay?
That's never true for Uhura, except in this episode.
Well, and let's not forget, just in terms of chain of command, she is fourth.
Yeah, she is fourth, and yes, and that's a great point too. That's the real reason. Thank you, Scotty. But in this episode, that actually mirrors the joke in Galaxy Quest, because the computer is doing everything, and in Galaxy Quest, the computer's doing everything, and she's just repeating it. But in Star Trek, Uhura is actually doing her job and is actually in control of her station. But I do love what McCoy says to Kirk. Jim, if you have the awareness to ask yourself that question, you don't need me to answer it for you. Why don't you ask James T. Kirk? He's a pretty honest guy.
Yeah. I love the interaction. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, of course, like you've been saying, the computer seems to be doing a great job with navigation. And pretty soon, Kirk is going to be turning it off. Because he's only here to test M5. He still wants to control his ship. He's not here to let the ship run everything. And like Daystrom would like it. But let's see what's going on in the chat. And hello to the comic relief crusaders here. And also the AI show says, I heard Conrad had a huge ego. Then again, Ross Martin basically was a scene stealer on the Wild Wild West.
Wild West.
And he was basically just the muscle and tough guy on the show.
When I roll into the Wild Wild West.
Interesting. I always thought he was the brains, not the brawn. I thought Jim West was the brawn.
Wiki Wild Wild West. Sorry, I'm done. You get 3.
Kirk should have never asked for that $15 per hour. Now he's going to be automated, says Smart Poopus Cuber.
Exactly. Good call, Poopus.
Big Daddy MRI. Hey, Big Daddy.
Big Daddy.
He says, hi, Jill. Working and listening. Love this episode. Me too. I'm so happy to be reviewing this episode. I feel like the whole reason I started this review was for Devil in the Dark and the Ultimate Computer.
The entire reason that you were put on this earth.
Maybe. I don't know. That would be weird.
All of your life has been leading to this moment, Jill.
I know it sounded like that, but I'm really happy today. I don't know why.
Well, it just reminds me of that one time that you said you wish you had lost all your memories so you could rewatch Star Trek again from the beginning.
But then I wouldn't have the emotional impact that it colored my entire adulthood with. So yes. I don't really want that. It's the tapestry argument. It made me who I am today.
You'd be a punk.
I am a punk.
It's true. That is true. You are a punk. Well, sorry. I didn't mean to besmirch your lack of punkiness. Punker.
Well, I don't dress it. Anyway. You must commit the M5 to handle its approach to the orbit and then analyze the data regarding the landing party recommendations. So Daystrom saying, this is the experiment. You've got to do my experiment. But Kirk's like, if you don't mind, I'll make my own recommendations. We're not there yet, but we're going to get to that part. But the computer seems to be doing a great job with navigation. Kirk turns it off because he doesn't trust the computer to run the ship better than he can. And at this point, he knows he's still struggling about what is this my pride interfering with progress? But his instinct, he's following his instinct because he knows his bridge and he knows his ship, and this is a new thing for him. Well, I guess he was kind of out of control too in Return to Tomorrow, but this is a little different.
But the anticipation of the
Mhm.
discoveries in Return to Tomorrow sort of piqued Kirk's explorer. This one, I kind of feel like Kirk is being stubborn. This is just an experiment. It doesn't mean that we're installing M5 today. It just means we're testing it out to see. This could be for, you know, some sort of, let's see how it works on the flagship, and then we will implement it in the fleet through deep space probes or far afield exploratory missions. He is being a bit boorish and closed off to new ideas because of his pride and ego, not Shatner's, but Kirk's.
Well, yes, and it's lucky that he has a first officer to balance that because Spock is more minded to carry out the experiment and see what happens, and he enjoys seeing the M5 succeed when it does succeed in the first test mission.
Well, and as we've mentioned
Orbiting
before, and
or whatever.
sorry,
The orbit. Go ahead.
well, and as we've seen before, and this is sort of a precursor to later Star Trek conflicts. This is an intellectual conflict because as the episode like as it lays itself out, as it goes forward, Daystrom is not regarded as a villain. Like everyone on board sort of admires him to a certain degree. It's just when his creation fails that it's like, okay, you got to turn this off. You got to stop doing it. And he's like, no, I really want it to work. And Spock wants it to work. Kirk doesn't want it to work, but he wants the man. Like Spock wants the computer to work, and Kirk wants the man to have his dignity, which I think is an interesting sort of character dynamic.
Well, remember, Spock wants it to work, but Spock also says he does not want to serve under a computer either.
Right, and that's where the hubris of Kirk sort of comes into play. Is that it's not necessarily like you're not fired if this works, Jim. We're just seeing if it does work, and then obviously it doesn't. And
But
so
Kirk does have that fear the whole episode. Is this going to replace me?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, absolutely. Which is an interesting, and again, but it's his ego to bruise while also being empathetic to Daystrom's sort of situation and career, and again, dignity.
The Comic Relief Crusader says Jill is too sweet to be punk. And yeah,
Not
maybe
true.
that's true. Maybe I'm not punk.
Don't judge a book by its cover.
I can get angry, but I usually do that behind the scenes. Mark Harkness says the computers on Woden were capable of simple navigation. The true test, especially for an exploratory mission, is how the M5 deals with out of context problems. Turns out not well.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm. All right. Oh man.
This is like one of those situations where
carbon units. Oh,
yeah. I just feel like everybody showed up for work this day, and then they said, "Don't worry, you don't have to do anything." And it's like, well, I could have slept in.
Well, no, everybody is being. Everybody is just like, oh, this is what's happening. They're just watching it like they're watching TV. Oh, now this is happening. Now the phasers are firing. Now the shields are up. Now the power is out. And everyone is helpless just to watch what M5 is doing. And Big Daddy MRI says, is it fear or his intrinsic leadership abilities? Yeah, that's also his instinct to protect his ship, to be in tune with it. And that's going to be in the scene coming up. Very good point, Big Daddy. No wonder M5 failed. Its Vista wasn't updated. Oh, Windows Update. Vista, man, that was not a good operating system. No wonder. Oh, and this is a great scene too of M5 slightly having a slightly different landing party than Kirk would have, because Kirk doesn't pick the inexperienced ensign, but M5 does, because M5 knows of his experience before being on the Enterprise. But it's still really great that Kirk actually knows who this ensign is. He knows so much of his crew.
I thought it was the other way around. I thought that M5 recommended Carstairs because of his experience, and it was Langstrom that Kirk was recommending for the away team or the landing party to sort of garner him some experience.
Well, that's what I said.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you reversed it. That was my mistake.
Well, I kind of did, in terms of the one with more experience was the ensign, and the one that Kirk chose was the higher ranking officer. But what I was saying is that Kirk still knew the ensign. He was like, hey, he didn't know of his previous experience, but he knew of him when he got aboard the starship.
Yes. And there we go. As you were referring to earlier, in terms of the production, you've got Daystrom sort of kneeling down, as opposed to sort of commanding the shot.
Yeah, and I would never know that was a thing for William Shatner. I just thought computer scientists on the ground make sense. That's what I do. Both Kirk and M5 have a feeling that this is life or death for them. Kirk also thought, though, has Spock and McCoy to help him get his head on straight. M5 can't be talked down from his insecurities. And hello to Peter, writer, Captain Finity. Still confused about when Kirk has a yellow top or a green top.
Hey, Finity.
He's not gonna have the wraparound anymore. Unfortunately, those days are over for at least our review series. You can always go back and watch them.
True.
And hello,
no more of that.
Hello to Max Redstone. Good day, all. My name is Jackson Roy Kirk. This is a little embarrassing, but I'm looking for my artificial intelligence space probe. You might have seen it. I named it Nomad.
Well, Jackson Roykirk didn't know that it was artificial intelligence. That was after it merged with another being and was modified.
Yeah, but for some reason, Max Redstone maybe he's implying that Roy Kirk figured out how to be transhumanistic himself and has lived for hundreds of years and now can see his creation become sentient. I don't know. I'm making that up.
I like it.
Are you really more interested in why M5 did not select you? M5 tie-in. And so this is the first time, actually. This isn't, Kirk is told that he's a non-essential personnel. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you highlighting something else? Go ahead.
No.
No. Storticus Cuber says there's a classic continuity question. Power shut down on Deck 5. That's where the senior officers' quarters are located. Then again, all senior officers are located on the bridge. Oh wow. Okay, that does make a difference. So they turned off the power to the wrong floor.
Well, and later on, there is a continuity error as well, because it says we've cut power to or M5 has cut power to Deck 4 and then Deck 5, and then after the commercial break, Daystrom says, well, that's the reason that it cut power to Decks 4 and 6. And it's like, nope, not what happened. But thanks, good try.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I guess he's not an operational crew member. If he misheard or misunderstood, it's not his job to know deck designations. But I figure attention to detail might be part of his job.
It should be. It was a mistake. Somebody made a mistake. That's for sure.
I blame Dorothy.
She is script supervisor and the author of the teleplay writer of the teleplay given the story by Lawrence. Meanwhile, okay, so M5 turns off all the lights, and like you said, because they're not needed. This was also our commercial cut, so it was like, dun, 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 why is he turning all this stuff off? They're unoccupied. And I love this next scene. I have all of the script in my notes. Obviously, I'm not going to read all of it. You're using an entirely new type of control mechanism. And yes, this unit is called upon to do more work. So it gets more power as it does more work, just like the human body draws more energy to run than to stand still. And Spock is like, Doctor, this is not a human body. The computer can process information, but only with the information which is put into it. Input and output. Yes, very simple, basic computer science stuff. Kirk says, granted, it can work 1,000, a million times faster than a human brain, but it can't make a valid judgment. It has intuition. It can't think. And so that's, of course, the biggest thing. Daystrom says, can't you understand? The multitronic unit is a revolution in computer science. I designed it. I designed the duotronic elements used in your ship right now, and I know they are as archaic as dinosaurs compared to the M5. A whole new approach, which, of course, this entire scene is foreshadowing the fact, saying the M5 can't think, with the revelation later that, yeah, it can. And, oh, there's one thing I also complain about besides the officers' quarters. Well, despite Stratopupus said the officer quarters were turned off, but also they turned off power to sick bay until it detects patients, which doesn't factor in Dr. McCoy's need as a doctor to do research and other scientific work to prove himself as a physician. So if the M5 were allowed to be implemented, it would essentially arrest Dr. McCoy's development, as this job, in this kind of job, you always need to be learning. And M5 does the communications work before the hurricane. Okay, that's where my notes are. And see what's going on. I'm also a car guy, however. I'll skip the BMW jokes. Wait, what? What was the meaning of that? Man.
I'm not a car guy. I don't know.
No one can. Come on, a little levity with the cannon. Yeah, of course.
Levity with the cannon. I don't know why I had to go old-timey British naval officer, but whatever.
It sounded right. I didn't know what to do either.
Okay, great.
But Max Redstone is really cool. Stratopupus Keyburst says, why do I feel like I'm Brandon hiding in my bedroom with my deck plans and technical manuals? Brandon. Galaxy Quest.
Is that the name of the guy? Oh, I knew it.
Brandon. Yeah, I have that too. But
it is Brandon.
I removed that clip because I needed to make more clips for this episode. But yes, it's all real. I knew it. Max Redstone said, when I first saw this episode, I thought Daystrom was played by Harry Belafonte. Thankfully, I learned better.
That would have been really cool. I do like this actor a lot. And also, I think Harry Belafonte would have been far more famous at this point. But
Max Redstone says, M5 is a special spot. A sport model.
Sport model.
BMW. Oh, okay. Yeah, I would not know that. Thank you.
Is that the GoldenEye BMW? I'm just curious, Max.
Damn it, Jim. I'm a doctor, not an electrician. Obviously, I can't answer that question. I didn't even know what an M5 was. It would have been funny if M5 had said, damn it, Jim. I'm a computer, not a doctor. Well, that would be if you imprinted the McCoy engrams on the computer. That would happen.
A lot of double field, like, and maybe deep focus. I don't know the name of the shot, but I like the over the shoulder and how everyone is in focus. The framing on this, the direction of this episode is fantastic.
Yeah,
ooh, thank you, Max.
You can thank Orson Welles for that.
Thank you, Orson.
He invented the lens where you could see at a distance and close up at the same time.
Oh, thank you, Orson Welles.
Also used in Star Trek: The Motion Picture by Robert Wise.
Yep.
Hey, Max Redstone says the GoldenEye BMW was a Z3. The Die Another Day was a Z8. Very, very rare. Ooh. Mark Harkness says M5 running a colony ship didn't go well when it decided that all the colonists needed to be in bed by 2200 and shut down life support on Deck 12 where Ken and Barbie were sneaking off for a rendezvous.
I feel like this is the movie Passengers.
Hey, that sounds like a pretty good fan fiction. Well done, Mark Harkness. The Comic Relief Crusader says James Bond would have taken it to M6.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention here's one of the shots we get that were not in the original, so it really does have some good added effects with the other ships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does look very good.
Well, and with the original, with the attack fleet, it's obviously just like a 4-way split screen. But it, I do like the panning and the adding to it. But even the added and the spruced up special effects, they are timed down to the second of how long the original effects were. And again, that's why I sort of had the admiration. It doesn't change the pacing. It doesn't grind to a halt so that everybody has to be like, ooh, look at these new special effects. I'm looking at you, Star Wars.
Yeah, there was no big spectacle. Oh, okay, they did that in Star Wars. But this is a gesture we don't see too often from Captain Kirk. The way he's covering his mouth, the way he's just completely out of it.
Like in the animated series.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
Okay, well, that does come. You're right. Fair enough. He's very uneasy with the lack of control, which is similar to how I felt when he lost control due to the aliens in Return to Tomorrow. So that it gave me a similar feeling. Because all he can do is sit there and watch his ship do what it wants. Big Daddy MRI says the big lesson here is to not allow a slightly insane computer designer to imprint his mind into a computer system with access to phasers and photon torpedoes. But to be fair, we didn't know, nobody knew the mental problems that Daystrom was undergoing because he possibly is an introvert who was building up to this moment where he's releasing his creation upon everyone, and he's just been quiet for 25 years working on this until it was ready, and over that time something turned loose, and we get someone who is extremely brilliant and has made an amazing creation, but he has imprinted his arrogance upon it, and something else. I feel like there's something else there.
Well, an interesting sort of aside that sort of popped into my noggin while I was watching this is later on, it's M5, not Daystrom, that says that killing is against the laws of God and man. Daystrom never says that. He says the civil and moral laws, but it's M5 that says God and man. And so those sort of synaptic engrams that are imposed upon M5, its computational interpretation of what Daystrom was trying to impart upon it is what sort of like that belief that because Star Trek it is, I don't know, notorious, or it hints towards an atheistic society. And this is one of the few times in the original series that you hear of God. Aside, of course, there's the Son of God from Roman planet, but the Federation representative in this episode that talks of God is the computer, which I thought was an interesting calculation.
Because it gets its morality from its creator.
And so it must
its creator
believe in
must
a God.
believe in God.
Or the M5 believes in a God, which is Daystrom.
That is also a possibility I had not considered. That is
Deca unit, take us to the creator.
See, I always thought that M5 thought of Daystrom as a father, but now as a god, that's something completely different. Interesting idea. Snortopoopas Cuber says they also made the decision not to animate the display screens unless they were showing some specific something specific to them. They didn't want fans being distracted by looking for new effects.
Totally.
And then it was rear screen projection. Like the M5, when they show that animated screen, that's rear screen projection.
Yeah.
Jay Goodwin says Marshall plays a social awkwardness well. Okay, so yeah, I was right. He is kind of an introvert because I am too. So it makes sense that I can tell. Franco Walker says, he and his acting is spectacular in this episode. You can see when he's not even saying stuff and he's saying everything.
Mm-hmm.
Franco Walker says, I thought it was strange that they're having a battle at warp speeds. That is weird. Kirk is uneasy with M5 and its antics. He can't do a Kobayashi Maru. And Max Redstone says from the first Tom Baker Doctor Who series Robot Doctor, the trouble with computers, of course, is that they're very sophisticated idiots. They do exactly what you tell them at amazing speed, even if you order them to kill you. So if you do happen to change your mind, it's very difficult to stop them obeying the original order, but not impossible. And that's very true. That is the mantra when you're taking computer science in university, is that your program, the errors are your own. The program, the computer, does exactly what you tell it to do. Unless of course you've got an actual bug in your computer. or those, gremlins, actual gremlins. And one of the big answers in computer science is it depends.
If not, then that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And hello. I already said hello, but Hugo. Graphics in, graphics out. What is this one? Garbage in, garbage out. Oh yes, of course. In programming, yes, gotta clean up your any data types you have, any different variables you have in your program. You've got to take care of them and make sure they're not just littering your program. It does, yeah, that is another very good computer science term. But this is an amazing quote by Spock. I love it, and it is a great one that plays along very well with the next scene. Let's see what I have in my clips. Did I take this one? Yes, I took some of it.
Practical, Captain. Perhaps, but not desirable. Computers make excellent and efficient servants, but I have no wish to serve under them.
And of course, he goes on to say, Captain, the starship also runs on loyalty to one man, and nothing can replace it or him. And after that, and so that is coming from an actual person, an actual character in Star Trek who is very proficient in computers with his A7 certification, who accepts the awesomeness and usefulness of computers, but also that he knows they can go wrong and that you need humanity to step in. Or another humanoid. Does it have to be a human? Gavin Blackburn says it can only be attributable to human error. HAL 9000. Or as we say now, the ID10T error. Max Redstone says, fact. The CEO of OpenAI, ChatGPT, carries around a backpack with him that controls explosive charges to all his company servers if the software happens to become sentient, to the detriment of humanity. No kidding. That's crazy. Says, oh my God. I didn't know that. That is why didn't I know that? I should have. Thank you for that information, Max Redstone. I'm glad he paid the creator of the CEO anyway of ChatGPT. Has watched science fiction, so he is protecting us from ChatGPT. Aren't you glad? Am I is anybody here? Hey, pop culture, are you here? Just a sound check.
I'm here.
Okay, just checking.
I'm here. I'm
Okay,
here.
no, I'm just wondering if you're around. No, and I'm okay if you don't have anything to say. I just wanted to be sure. I'm very dubious that Sam Altman carries around anything other than a live calculation of his know.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I keep my mic
You know
muted in
what,
case
Max
my dog
Redstone? I
decides to
think you're
go off.
joking. This has to be a joke.
Yeah, I somehow don't think that would be legal.
Why did I believe that? I'm so gullible. I just realized it though before I get or at least that is the story. I like that story though. I would be impressed if that were true. I don't think so. Is he? Okay, so PEBCAC problem exists between keyboard and chair. Yes. Yes, a lot of you guys know the rule. And so after this amazing character moment between Kirk and Spock that just shows their brotherhood here, then Wesley immediately gets on screen. And what does he say? He says,
Our compliments to the M5 unit and regards to Captain Dunzel.
in regards to Captain Dunzel. Wesley out. Come on. So we did talk about this earlier, but McCoy is confused. Who in the blazes is Captain Dunzel? But everybody else knows what's going on. It's a term
McCoy
used
represents the audience because that's how they always do it. There's got to be somebody who doesn't understand, so they can explain to the audience.
That makes sense. It refers to a part which serves no useful purpose. So that was really rude. And that's what leads us into the really great scene that comes next to it. So it wasn't just rudeness for no reason, although I think it was a little overboard. It does lead us into this awesome scene that comes up next.
Yeah, I would say
Kirk
insensitive.
You would say what?
Insensitive.
Yeah, definitely insensitive. But it leads to a good moment between Kirk and McCoy that reminds me of a similar moment they had in the episode.
Right, and believe me, I used to work for Uber, and working for an algorithm is no fun. Nobody wants to do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. You need to be able to break free from the algorithm and not always be bound to it.
Yes.
And when you're a programmer, you can do that because you can write the code to change the programming. But if you don't have control over the program, then yeah, you're just kind of screwed.
Right.
Oh, now I remember what it reminds me of. The next scene that's coming up reminds me of The Balance of Terror, which has a kind of a similar scene between McCoy and Kirk, where Kirk is also kind of feeling a little bit down, if a little bit like not up to the task of that was in Balance of Terror, and this one he feels useless. And James Caserta says, "Oh, hey, James Caserta's here. Hey, radical. I'm down the street in a little seedy bar."
Hello, James. Good to see you. Have
Also,
one for
Melvin
me.
Deeply. When did you last see Sean the Bus? He's been MIA for months. Ooh. Really? Oh. However, I will concede as to the possible subjective nature, as there are no major news outlets that I can find right now. But it's a nice notion, isn't it? It is a really nice notion. You had me having hope for humanity and the intelligence of our species to be able to handle the future. But then I thought about it for a little bit, and I was getting so wrapped up in the sci-fi that logically speaking, that doesn't actually make sense that he would do that. Even though I would love for it to be true. Max Redstone says, "I have to be off. I'm so behind on things. Be seeing you."
Take care, Max.
Yeah. Take care, Max. Definitely. Hope you have a really great day. Thank you for blessing us with your amazingly fun and hilarious chats. I enjoy reading them. Oh crap, I forgot all about Sean. Oh yeah, I hope he's okay too.
This is a
I'm
great
sorry
scene
to say
here.
I don't know who Sean is. Yeah, this is the scene I've been playing up for the past 3 minutes. I love it so much. I may just be ship's doctor. But I make a Finaggle's Folly. That's known from here to Orion. I want to try the fan version of this. It's also green. Can anyone pinpoint where Spock became aware the M5 could be malfunctioning or acting contrary to Federation spec? Yeah, when you can't turn it off, the second that you're like, okay.
It wasn't even then. It was when it blew up the drone ship. The ore ship is when they realized.
Oh, that's it. That's it. Thank you. James Caserta says, "I'm just a program." But who's your programmer if you're a program? Yes. It all depends on how you view life. And Snortopoopus Cuber says, "I would think that M5 destroying the vessel would be a big hint." Yeah, there you go, Snortopoopus. That was the moment.
And then see, what I wonder is at what point does Daystrom become criminal? Because even after it, okay, first we have the ore ship get destroyed, and then we get an actual crew member killed, and Daystrom still refuses to unplug the machine. So, I mean, clear up till the end, it's like, what? How much is insane and how much?
Well,
is
that's
criminal?
simple. That's simple. That moment that Harper is killed, Ensign Harper is killed, and that's the moment where Daystrom is not rushing to shut off his machine.
Exactly, he
And,
keeps
and
defending
that
it
is
even
the
after
moment
that.
where he takes responsibility for what he's done. And he doesn't take it, but he has responsibility for what he's done.
Yes. So here's where we have Captain Kirk actually contemplating retirement.
Yeah, exactly. This kind of reminds me of The Cage with Boyce
Pike.
and Pike
Mhm.
in terms of that. In terms of that.
And the Doctor, right? The same scene with him and the Doctor.
Peter Captain Finity says, "I don't trust neither machines nor humans. I've known too many machines and humans." Yeah,
No,
that's
I
fair
can agree
enough.
with that. Yeah, I agree with that.
And
I
also,
don't.
Big Daddy says, "Hey, welcome back. Spock was observing the machine since the test began. He just didn't let anyone know overtly. So who is responsible for the death of the first ensign?"
M5.
M5. M5 was no. M5 was responsible for it, but after the death of the ensign, then
Well-
Daystrom is responsible for all of the following deaths because he doesn't do anything to stop M5. Or he says, "No, I want to allow you don't stop a child when they make a mistake." So that's the moment, I think.
See, I think we're getting to, I think they don't say it on screen, but I think Daystrom from the very beginning knows the M5 is flawed and know that it can go off at any time, but he just doesn't want to say so because he's so obsessed with trying to make himself look good. So that's why he's constantly making excuses for the M5.
If that's true, then since the beginning.
Well, I would say, yeah, and the thing is, I think that the severity that Kirk applies to the death of the freighter is what makes him go, well, that could have been a manned ship. And Daystrom is like, so what? It wasn't, though. You're asking about hypotheticals, which I have no interest in. I'm interested in the performance of the computer. And it's not until the death of Hansen that the severity of what M5 can callously eliminate.
Harper.
Is it Harper or Hansen?
Harper, Hansen, Harper.
Oh, it's
There's a Harper and a Hansen. There's a Harper and a Hansen in this episode.
Wait a
so I can
minute.
understand how we're all...
Maybe his name was Hansen Harper.
It was Hansen Harper.
Why do I remember Harper? Mr. Harper. Harper is all in the script. Okay, I don't know where Hanson comes from.
At the end, near the end, I think. Anyway,
I believe you. You're the Star Trek amazing person. So
Hanson and Harper's.
Jay Goodwin says, so who was responsible for the death of the first ensign? And so M5 isn't a being that can be held to account. So then it's Daystrom, because Daystrom later says, you murdered, we murdered. And I actually have that clip too.
That's what I say.
And actually, okay, so let me get back to my notes because I have some things I have to say. This is chicken soup. Thank you, doctor. This is one of your better prescriptions. And so this is the best part of the scene is when it gets poetic. He talks about wanting to be a real ship at sea, just like in Balance of Terror, which is why it reminds me kind of this scene and also the cage. And it's kind of cool because in both, McCoy is telling Kirk to remember himself in a time of insecurity and when he's feeling less than. And so the poem that he's reading is called Sea Fever by John Masefield. And there's something about it in the 365 book.
Well,
may
I interject just one thing, because it says in Star Trek V, as everyone is returning from Yosemite, the shuttlecraft is coming back to the Enterprise, and Kirk says, all I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer her by. And McCoy says, Melville. And then Spock says, Masefield. And McCoy says, are you sure about that? And he's like, I am well versed in the classic, Doctor. And then McCoy says, then how do you not know? Row, row, row your boat.
Or what marshmallows are.
Marshmallows? Well, that's in the novelization.
Well, he does call them marshmallows.
Marshmallows? Yeah, because McCoy reprogrammed the computer to give Spock faulty information.
That's what's in the book.
Yes.
And okay, so I didn't play this clip earlier. Oh wait, yeah, I did. So now I am on this one. So I did this on purpose. I'm so glad you brought up Star Trek V, because I actually did this. I got the wrong clip on purpose. It's great.
All I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer her by.
I liked him better before he died.
And felt useless. Unneeded. To Captain Dunzel.
To James T. Kirk, Captain of the Enterprise.
I meant to get the other part too. Where's the other part? I missed the other part. But of course, the other part is to Captain Dunzel. But of course, what it was better was the way that McCoy responds to that. To James T. Kirk, Captain of the Enterprise. And this, yeah, so the whole poem is here. I have the whole poem here, but I guess we don't need to read it. But if you want to read it, I'll put it in the chat. If anybody wants to read the poem. Sea Fever.
Regular chat or private chat?
Regular chat. Because, I have that chat.
Oh, Jill, can you put that in the private chat? I'd love to read that later.
Well, thank you, PvP.
Cheers.
The evocative music by George Dunning. Okay, so composed for Metamorphosis. Okay, so we hear that again here when he's talking about the ship. Oh, and this is what the 365 book says that I've been leading up to. Although Kirk, by this point in the series, established his literary cred with the audience, he demonstrates in this episode that he has read more than Shakespeare's best-known works. He quotes John Masefield's Sea Fever here, a poem that is certainly a good fit for this future incarnation of Horatio Hornblower. Kirk may be a man of the 23rd century, but he will be always a man whose feet are firmly anchored in the romantic haze of a simpler era, which is why Wesley's Captain Dunzel snipe, a reference implying that men like Kirk may no longer be needed aboard starships, hurts like hell. Kirk would quote the same line from Sea Fever again in Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. And like Scotty R37 said, McCoy would incorrectly attribute it to Melville. But then the good doctor has always been a better psychologist, not to mention mixologist, than lit major.
And Spock does know the captain's fondness for antiquities. Surely the best of times.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, this is the point where I can't pause too much. So let me know if you absolutely have to pause. And the whole message of this episode is amplified by the fact that when they come across a vessel which is already fully automated and fully controlled by a computer, and this is the freighter that we see that comes across, and I think that there was some more potential here with this freighter that they could have had. The
A
load-in.
close-up would have been nice.
Mm-hmm. And of course, it has no crew. It's a robot ship. And after that rousing scene, though, we don't see. So the Kirk we saw in the previous scene, he was feeling down and out, but he got his friend to talk to him. And so in this scene, we don't see Captain Kirk fall to the whim of the computer that's only, obligated to be tested in the war games. He steps up, he's on his bridge, and he knows where he is. So he tries to turn it off, and that's the moment where we see that you can't turn it off. And that's the main issue with this whole computer system.
Well, and it's interesting just in terms of the subterfuge and the misdirection that M5 produces later on when they're trying to disengage the automatic control from M5.
Yeah, sure.
It learns, it adapts for its own survival, and it seems like that is the survival of intelligent creatures seems to be the driving force of Daystrom himself. And so we must survive, man must survive, and
M5 must survive because it is going to help man, and it is vitally important, and it is the most important thing ever.
Fantastic machine, the M5. No off switch.
like Alexa.
Oh, what's this one?
I would say, Captain, that M5 is not only capable of taking care of the ship, it is also capable of taking care of itself.
I'm afraid that M5 doesn't realize that these are war games. No, the fleet doesn't know that this is M5's game.
I think the main problem with this scene that I have is that we never find out why they have to attack, why M5 thinks it has to attack the freighter. I think it would have been neat if we also had the robot ship also malfunction, but in a different way, kind of like not in an AI way, but like a basic computer glitch or bug, which happens sometimes because how often do you have to restart your computer to fix something? And so that would be fun for me if they would have given the reason there.
Well, there you go.
It serves its purpose.
Kirk should have said to Scotty, have you tried turning the ship off and on again?
Mm-hmm. It serves its purpose to say, hey, we don't have control of this thing. This is the moment where Daystrom should say, okay, I messed up. I'll turn this thing off. And Daystrom does see that there's something wrong, but he's worried about his baby more than he's worried about the Enterprise or the crew or the 20 people who are on the ship or the potential people who could have been aboard that freighter, but luckily there were no people in it.
It just destroyed an ore freighter. In fact, it went out of its way to destroy an ore freighter.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, with the accusation that McCoy levels at Daystrom, then you'd be responsible for the murder of Bones. Let's not start doing that. This guy's he's hopefully gonna be able to unhook this thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I did like that moment. I'm glad you mentioned it. Jay Goodwin says, but Daystrom didn't make the decision to give M5 the ability to kill the instant. Right. And so he gave it the ability to think and learn and be independent. And so independently, M5 came up with this idea, given Daystrom's engrams. But Daystrom ends up taking responsibility eventually, but he's also kind of going mental, so he can't He breaks down, obviously, at the end. Can we really trust Spock? What? Of course we can trust Spock. In fact, oh yeah, that reminds me. Right after the very first test with the M5, Captain Kirk doesn't answer Daystrom's question. He just goes right to Spock. What do you think? My first officer, what do you think about this? And it did it perfectly, but this is not ideal. It's practical, but not desirable. Edge of Time says, saw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I laughed, I cried, I had a good time. Wow, I'm glad you had a good time with that movie. I've heard some good things and I've heard some bad things. I don't know myself.
TURTLE power.
Melvin Deeply says, did a quick check. Most recent comments of Andy's I Can See are on Ashoka episode 3 stream. Wait, what?
That's in a different galaxy that's far, far away.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, Melvin.
Chat must survive. Yeah, glad you're here, Melvin.
And Gavin.
Oh, right. This is where we find out M5 created its own force field, and definitely something Daystrom didn't plan for or implement.
Well, and one of the things that they do, sort of people when they're making fun, when you're taking the piss out of Star Trek, you talk about the stunt doubles and whatnot. I really appreciate the response that Shatner has, because it's Bill when he is repelled by the force field and he's thrown across. It's just him jumping and sliding, and it's a good little stunt. It sells it. And
it is. That's good. I agree.
Gorilla, I don't have It's a Trap clip.
It's a teep clip. It's a teep.
I'm sorry, Gorilla. I know that's I guess you could call that a request, but I don't have it.
It's a trap.
I guess if
what
I
do you
stop
mean
my
the shields are still up?
And
I'm
I
not
share
having
my
any
screen,
readings up or down.
and I share audio.
Well, if they're jamming us, how do they know that we're coming?
I guess I can.
All units, pull up, pull up.
Look what you did, Gorilla. Now Scotty is just saying the entire all of.
I'm just going off Return of the Jedi.
On target.
Lighten up.
Okay. So this is for Gorilla as requested.
It's a trap!
There.
We can't repel firepower of that magnitude. Get close to the Star Destroyers. We can't take on Star Destroyers. We'll have better chance against that Death Star. God, I love Return of the Jedi.
And the reason I'm not reading the captain's logs for this one is you don't really need them, just like you don't need most of the crew. It's just like the captain's log. The ship's been taken over by M5. Thanks, Captain.
Well, and usually before an episode, before we do one of these, you ask and say, all right, are there any clips that you want? And there was one that I wanted, but as I was watching the episode, I was like, I want that one. I want that one. I want that one. And it's like, just watch the episode.
Just watch the episode. I agree. You can defeat Alexa by asking for pi to infinity. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you singing something, Pop Culture? Did I interrupt the song?
I was talking to somebody. Sorry.
Oh, you're singing to your puppies. Aw. Mark Harkness says, in Harper's death, Daystrom is guilty of manslaughter in the first degree, reckless endangerment.
Is that kind of like falling asleep behind the wheel of a car and then it crashes into someone even though you weren't responsible?
M5 got taste for blood and turned into
M5-ular. Blackula needed blood.
Oh, I do hope you find him. I do hope so. I don't know who he is, but I really hope he turns up. Edge of Time says, I have always thought that the world is unkind. Cheeseman. Gorilla, it's very happy that I that I gave him his request.
That's all I
Yub
needed.
nub.
Gorilla's happy.
See, and this is one of those
Yeah.
incredible moments, not
Oh.
only from the original special effect, but with like the puff of smoke, the shower of sparks. But I really like in the remaster, the reflection on the deck. Like it looks good. It really sells it. And this always seemed like a precursor to the more sort of dull and less production value that we see in season 3, but they do spruce this up to make it look much better. I'm excited to see what season 3 looks like with the enhanced effects.
Yeah. I think, yeah, definitely. I think what makes Daystrom a sympathetic kind of sort of, I hesitate even to call him an antagonist because I do think he believes in M5 with all of his heart. But Daystrom is in distress over his creation having killed a crew member, even though he's not willing to let go of it. So you can see from his acting that this is very disturbing to him.
I don't know if Dad Man was here before, but Dad Man's got to go.
Take care, Dad.
Hello, Dad Man. Yeah, no, he said he was lurking. He said earlier at the beginning, I think.
Have a great
He's
day.
listening and working and stuff. Okay.
Cheers.
Oh, he's got to run work calls, so you can't call people and listen to a live stream. That makes sense. Have a good day.
Say hello to Mama Lady Strolling.
And also, everybody remember to subscribe to Dan Man Walking. I don't think I have that one in my rotation yet, like I did for Comic Relief Crusader. So I'm going to put that in the chat. Dan Man. There he is. What?
Oh, I'm just chuckling.
The ensign simply got in the way. How long until we all just get in the way?
Well, and in terms of the framing, it doesn't look like Kirk is that much smaller than the 3. And if you did want to frame them, actually, it doesn't make sense to have the guest star in the background. But I like all of this, and I never think, "Ooh, Kirk's a wee little man." He looks normal.
Well,
yeah, he looks normal to me.
Right. Well, you could clearly see the size difference. I mean,
oh sure.
Right,
like especially there, yeah.
Right, you can see why William Shatner was intimidated. he look how big. Even he's standing right next to them. Look how much bigger he is.
I don't know how that feels because everybody is taller than I am. Not everybody.
It's kind of like
a good majority.
Well, I'm taller for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like watching First Contact, and like Jonathan Frakes is a tall man, and then you have James Cromwell beside him, who is even taller, and you've got Jonathan Frakes, who's like 6'2" or something, looking up at James Cromwell, who's like 6'7" or something like that. The man is a beanstalk. It's insane. And so I don't know. You get these towering, larger than life actors to portray larger than life characters, and I think Daystrom is intended to be as such, especially considering that we have the Daystrom Institute in the next generation and moving forward.
Yeah, that's important to remember, the legacy that Daystrom carries on and the importance that he gives to technology in general when you talk about Star Trek. And I'm glad that he was honored in that way, because I do believe his intentions were pure, but he just got his arrogance, his hubris. There was hubris.
But he's also hiding the flaws. There's flaws, like I said earlier, in that machine that he doesn't want to tell anybody.
I think he's discovering them at the same time that we are.
I think there was one line that is supporting your theory on that notion, and I think then I think you're perfectly valid in bringing that up, but I forget what line it is exactly. Yeah, but it is in the script, so you're not wrong. That is potential, but how much? I don't think he thought that the machine was going to kill.
Well, he doesn't seem very surprised when it does, right?
What? Yeah, he was. Okay, so the way that he was performed, he.
You think he was surprised when Harper Hansen was killed, or the ore ship?
Yes, but he's a very reserved man, so his surprise is more of an internal shock.
Gotcha.
He goes inward on himself when it happens. He's looking down. He's like, "Oh, what's going on?" His body language is very strong. It's very
Or like
very much
like they
like
say earlier,
a scientist.
right? Or like they say earlier, like a child disappointing the parent.
Like, yeah, like maybe a parent who's just discovered their kid off somebody, maybe.
Is a
Like,
psycho, right?
right. Yeah. Right. Like Big Daddy MRI said earlier, treating a machine like a child is a huge mistake. In this setting, the machine should have been disconnected. Allowing it to continue should have been Kirk's decision. That is a great point, Big Daddy. Daystrom is like anybody who makes a mistake. You always think you can pull it back until it's too late, and then you see the person that the consequences occur, and Daystrom crumbles.
I agree.
And, yeah, those are good points. And I'm glad I found those chats because I had already passed by them.
Good old Jeffrey's tube.
Yeah, working with Spock and Scotty. That's great. So the M5 wasn't able to detect the ensign and hold back the beam until he could be pushed out of the way with the force field. Daystrom is telling fibs. Yeah, right. And yeah, that was a moment where no, don't turn him off. And Kirk has to hold him back. Let me talk to him. Let me communicate. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Sort of Poopus. It becomes more increasingly obvious throughout the episode that he has mental imbalance. And
Well,
Scotty
that's why
R37.
Bones is talking to him. This whole thing is a psychological evaluation right now at this point.
Scotty R37 had to step away for a bit. He says,
Yeah,
right
but he's back.
Not leaving forever. That
That
was
was fast.
like that was 2 minutes ago.
I'm not even gonna announce my exits anymore. I'm just gonna see if I can Batman in and out, yo. I'm gonna spin around with a cape like Blackula.
I'm
that's
bad at
what
reading
I do.
private chats, so I understand.
That's why I have that away avatar. I just put the away avatar and go away and come back when I have to. But not
I don't
for
want to
the
have anything that says away because then people will get excited and start tuning in. And then when I come back, the numbers will drop and we'll know. We'll have quantifiable mathematical evidence that people don't watch when I'm on.
But what if the opposite result happened?
I don't trust it. I don't think it's no.
I don't know. Well, it would be that way if they were all me. Jay Goodwin says Marshall does a great job of not being physically imposing despite him obviously outsizing everyone. One machine can do all those things they send men out to do now. Oh, this was his speech.
So amazing.
Yeah.
The gravitas. Men no longer need die in space.
Oh, do you want to read it?
If we have it.
I have everything.
I don't know if I'm allowed to. Is this digital blackface? I really appreciate the performance. What? Like this is some people.
He's a human being, guys.
That's what I think, and he's never addressed. As you mentioned,
Star Trek.
As you mentioned early on, he's never addressed in terms of his race. He's always addressed by the content of his character and his intellect and the foibles based on early success and the pressure that puts on a genius. Like but I would love to.
That is the point of Star Trek, because we're not supposed to, like, how are we supposed to honor people that we really admire and care about in a fandom if we can't quote them?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, we can't quote them because he's not my race. What the shit is that? That's crazy. I love Dr. Daystrom, and I want you to please read this.
That would be amazing. I love it. Let's see, what do we got? You can't understand. You're frightened because you can't understand it. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show all of you. It takes 430 people to man a starship. With this, you don't need anyone. One machine can do all those things they send men out to do now. Men no longer need die in space or on some alien world.
Okay.
Men can live and go on to achieve greater things than fact-finding and dying for galactic space, which is neither ours to give or take. They can't understand. We don't want to destroy life. We want to save it. I fucking love that speech. And again, it's one of those things where misplaced ambition and genius can lead to horrible situations.
But look at the look on McCoy's face. It's like, okay.
Yeah, you're a crazy person.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But this is also the part where, well, that's where Daystrom is right now. Daystrom loves his machine and he wants to fix it. He wants to be able to figure out what's wrong with it. He's the programmer who wants to figure out what the bug is and fix it. But
Well,
he should have
and
been
from his
responsible here and shut it down and then fixed it.
from his perspective, in the testing of this machine, we have lost one unmanned robot ship, no biggie, as far as Daystrom is concerned, and one ensign who happened to not adhere to safety protocols. He was standing right in the way. He simply got in the way. Would you blame a bulldozer for like the bucket falling down on an inappropriately placed workman? No, you wouldn't blame the bulldozer.
You might if it was a
Or how about
automated bulldozer.
how about a self-driving car running over someone?
Self-driving, yes, exactly. A self-driving car. Would you blame Eon?
Well, and then you just have to look at the statistics and the mathematical formula as to, all right, well, if a car blows up, and this is, I'm ripping this off from Fight Club, if there's a defect in a car that causes death, which is more valuable, which is more cost effective for the auto company? Is it to do a full recall on all the cars, or is it just to pay out the families who were affected by that particular defect? If the payout is more than the recall, then they'll do the recall. Again, this is from Fight Club. It has no basis in reality, but that's the balance. Is technology more valuable than the cost of human life? And in Daystrom's mind, at this point, it is the technology being furthered that is more valuable.
Right, but remember, like with the Challenger, remember when that automated car did strike and kill someone, that set the automated cars back many years. I mean, we have Teslas.
It didn't stop them forever.
No, it didn't stop them, but it did delay them for a long time because a lot of people lost faith. You know, there were already a lot of people that didn't trust them at the time, but that pretty much convinced them that, you know, that we've got a long way to go, I guess you could say. And that was with a person behind the wheel who wasn't paying attention.
Well, did you see the automated car traffic jam that happened in Austin?
Well, I know I've seen a few where all you have to do is confuse the sensors. If you step out in front of it or start walking around it, there's also videos where people just start attacking them and beating them up. People don't like them.
It's like that Tom Selleck, Gene Simmons movie, Runaway.
Oh, hey. And Gavin says, isn't that what Ford did on one of their trucks? They decided it was cheaper to pay compensation than do a full product recall.
Well, it's the same thing with like airbags, any kind of auto defects. The first thing the company's going to try to do is ignore it.
Mm-hmm. And Franco Walker says Tesla have killed people. Who's getting the blame for that? And that's
exactly right.
That is a whole.
Well, in that case, the drivers are, because there are people behind the wheel, and they do get the brunt of the blame, the brunt of the blame, because they're either falling asleep or not paying attention, which they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, exactly. The self-driving isn't supposed to be happening while you're playing your Xbox in the back seat.
Yes.
You can't do it. Now let me have it for a while.
Please, please. Please.
The acting is so good. You can feel his passion for his creation here.
And you can see William Shatner climbing that guy like a jungle gym. He's just so big. He's like a tree. There you go.
Yeah. Kirk has to struggle to restrain him because he needs that apple crate. You can't do it. Now let me work with it. Please. It really does feel like a parent trying to get their kid. But of course, the M5 is fine. It totally just misdirected everybody. Put everybody on, like Spock says, a wild goose. Pursuing a wild goose. Wild goose chase. Let me start this and get away. It appears, Captain, that we've been doing what used to be called pursuing a wild goose. M5 has rerouted helm and navigation controls, bypassing primary systems. I believe when M5 was discovered, are tampering, it rerouted the controls, leaving this one active by simply sending out an electronic impulse at regular intervals.
Well, and I do want to give something that I brought up in previous episodes, sort of the protege nature of Chekhov under Spock's command. Because Spock says to Chekhov, go to the engineering console and let us know what's going on with these particular systems and power distribution. And so when it does come to who is the science officer on the bridge, Spock is the one who has sort of taken Chekhov under his wing to be like a really valuable member of the bridge crew.
Yes, and I'm glad that's something that's being carried forth, and definitely, I bet that was DC Fontana's work there.
And also something that's reflected later on when we watch Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. You get to see Chekhov be promoted to first officer, which I'm sure had no small part to do with Spock.
Right, and since Spock is captain, that makes sense. Daystrom says, exactly. I've developed a method of impressing human engrams upon the computer circuits. The relays are not unlike the synapses of the brain. Oh, have I missed any of my clips? I made a lot of clips. Here we go.
Please, Spock, do me a favor.
Spock, do me a
And
favor.
don't say it's
And
fascinating.
don't say it's
fascinating.
No.
But it is
Interesting.
That eye roll.
Yeah, the eye roll. I had to make sure to get that in there.
You don't shut a child off when it makes a mistake.
Oh, and I read this already, but it's going to come up in a minute.
And Poopus and Jay Goodwin are mentioning that there is a little bit of an echo with the clips.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, it's no big deal.
Yeah, Jill, you don't have to throw yourself on your sword or anything.
Okay. Well, I made an error. Well, because whenever I played that other clip, I turned on audio for the screen share.
For YouTube.
When you turn on audio for screen share and then you play videos on StreamYard, it does that. So let me play those clips again without.
Before you do that, I just want to say Gorilla's Random Thoughts was the one who said, play, it's a trap. It was a trap. It was your fault. Sit the F down, Gorilla. You got no legs to stand on. It was a trap.
He didn't mean to. It was
Yeah.
my doing. I am in control of this live stream, so it wasn't his fault.
Gorilla is the Richard Daystrom of this stream.
I am not M5.
Good intentions aside.
I would say, Captain, that M5 is not only capable of taking care of the ship, it is also capable of taking care of itself.
Please, Spock, do me a favor. Please, Spock, do me a favor. And don't say it's fascinating.
No.
But it is
Interesting.
You don't shut a child off when it makes a mistake. I've developed a method of impressing human engrams upon the computer circuits.
Did it play the whole clip? Sometimes StreamYard cuts it off for me, but not for you.
I think you did. I'm not sure how long you wanted it to play, but I'd say it was safe enough within the boundaries of being warned by the copyright gods.
Okay. Well, it would have. Hopefully, it sounded good. Yeah. But anyway, where are we?
He is very proud of himself.
Right, because he you see now why he is treating his creation as a child, because he's essentially created himself, or at least a version of himself that doesn't have the same life human experience that he had, but does have the knowledge and does have some of the personality attributes, kind of like a shell of Daystrom.
But M5 doesn't know it's a game. Wrong, Bones. Or no, correction, Bones. Those four ships don't know it's M5's game.
There you go.
I love this episode. Like, it is, again, you can't play enough clips. I just want to watch the whole thing. And I was even, this
Me
is,
too.
again, this is sort of like Return to Tomorrow, watching that and being like, this feels like a rainy Saturday afternoon on the CBC. This feels like a bitchin' kick-ass Saturday afternoon when the sun is shining and my mom is saying go outside and I'm saying, no, it's almost over, come on.
Just yeah, I know all about kicking my children outside to play. Gavin Blackburn says Spock must be the one who sent Chekhov to the bathroom during the entirety of space. But the funny thing is I'm telling them to go play, but I'm dragging my computer outside to play on the computer while they play outside. So I'm kind of a hypocrite. Gavin Blackburn says Spock must be the one who sent Chekhov to the bathroom during the entirety of space.
Spacesi.
Oh, space. Yeah. Let's not confuse the bulldozer with the device that can choose to turn or not. When there's an accident with heavy machinery, the operator is responsible. What about the machine? What about when the machine is the operator? Yes, Mark Harkness.
Well, I remember when I worked with a forklift, and one of the things that's on the mechanical part that makes the forks rise and fall, it says if you're raising it, don't walk underneath it. And I did that. Like, I think on my first or second day, I was just walking underneath it willy-nilly until someone saw me and said, do you want to die? And I was like, no, I don't. And so they explained it to me that it could just drop, like a hydraulic thing could break, it could run out of power, something could happen, and the forks would just drop, and they would drop indiscriminately on my noggin, and I would die.
God. I'm so glad somebody spoke up.
Yes, and made sure that I didn't come to a harmful end. But I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't necessarily put that under the responsibility of the person who manufactured that, because I simply got in the way. I was just underneath the forks. The forks dropped. I was in the way. It had nothing to do with the forklift. I just wasn't following standard, like, proper safety procedures.
This part, because it mirrors earlier where Captain Kirk was not in control, and this is the moment where Daystrom realized he's lost control himself of his own programming.
I didn't realize Gorilla had a donkey.
Franco Walker says 500 Quatlus on the Enterprise.
Yeah, 500,000.
Against the fleet. Jay Goodwin says Daystrom believes M5 has become self-aware, so turning it off would not only be murder, but extinction, since it is unique.
But it could always be turned back on again. I mean, once it's repaired.
Exactly. That's what I would think too, right? It makes sense to me, Pop. I'm with you there. Jay Goodwin says, apparently Scotty never got to watch Shake Hands with Danger.
Never saw it, Jay. Is it any good? I would love to hear more.
And there's a hit on the Lexington. There's a battle going on now. You know what? I should have had you give me a battle report.
Oh no, but see, the thing is, if you want the proper, like, this is one of those, I just recommend watching this episode.
Yeah, just go watch it.
I love it.
That's our review. Go watch this episode.
That's our review. Watch it. Yeah, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I'm glad I did not get forked.
You didn't. Yeah, so Wesley on the view screen says, so I'm just going through this is one of the episodes where half my notes are just quotes. All ships damaged in unprovoked attack. Excalibur, Captain Harris, and First Officer dead. Many casualties. We have damage but are still able to maneuver. The Enterprise refuses to answer and is continuing to attack. I still have an effective battle force and believe that the only way to stop the Enterprise is to destroy her. Request permission to proceed. Request commanding attack force out. Good thing it wasn't Captain Kirk, because Captain Kirk would not wait for Starfleet to get back with him.
Well, and that's also interesting in terms of the war games themselves, in terms of, we've seen Kirk pursue, like, again, the Romulan bird of prey in Balance of Terror, and feeling that the nature of that mission was to pursue the encroaching Romulan craft. M5 doesn't seem to have such intuition or urgency. It's only there to defend itself as opposed to enact follow-up orders or follow-up maneuvers to ensure the safety of borders or the Federation. But then again, I don't know what M5's, what its, what do you call it? What its orders would be.
Yeah. Well, and as Spock was saying earlier, it's not behaving logically because it has those brain engrams from Daystrom. And so it's very difficult to predict what it's going to do next.
The files are inside the computer? Oh.
Yeah, so break apart the computer, obviously. And not the actual computer, just break apart the monitor.
Yeah, for sure. Just hit the mouse with a hammer.
Jake Goodwin says, Scotty, it's standard safety training tape.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Scotty, you did not watch the standard safety training tape.
It was a good 15-minute nap. I needed to get rested before I started using heavy machinery.
Right, because it's bad to be tired. Wow.
Well, I was hungover.
That follows. Jake Goodwin says, rules of engagement. Also, speaking of Scotty R37, yes, we have a role here. Check out Scotty R37 on Twitter, Twitter at
X-Twitter.
R37. Yeah.
Twitter. Twixer. Twix.
But no, this is where Kirk is demanding that Daystrom finally take control of his creation because by now it's been killing people. Now there are hundreds of people dead. These are not okay. So what's happening in my clips? I have some clips.
I do appreciate that this is the first mention of women in the entire episode. It takes a while.
I don't even notice that kind of thing.
No, I know, me too.
But you do. You did.
I was just making.
That you didn't notice it before I do.
I was just making a joke because I sort of, mankind. There are men aboard that ship. It's not meant to be gender specific. It just means that they are men of the Federation, men of Starfleet, and they are men and women. The same way that Saavik is called Sir.
Yes.
The same way that Shelby is called Sir.
But also,
it's sort of a gender neutral salutation structure.
There's your murder charge. Deliberate, calculated. That thing is killing men and women.
Men and women.
Misunderstood.
I guess. Anyway. There's nothing to be done. They're just watching helplessly as M5 does whatever it wants until Daystrom gets a chance to talk to it. And we're running slow on time, so I'm gonna skip a little bit. Oh, but the phasers are firing.
Incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Although I would like to know where the light source is for that particular shot of the Enterprise.
Well, gotta allow some leeway for being able to see something cool sometimes when it doesn't make that much sense.
No, I know. Well, and that was, and we can talk about it more when we talk about Star Trek: The Motion Picture if we haven't already. But it was one of the design.
Mm-hmm. There are lights everywhere.
Have we talked about it?
No.
Okay. Sometimes we talk about things and I don't remember because my own habits. But there is when they designed the refit Enterprise, they said that they wanted to make sure that it was able to be self-lit, which I thought
we have talked about it, but we haven't had a whole live stream about it.
Oh, okay.
Right, we're talking about the model.
Oh, well, like the refit model for the motion picture.
Right. Right, they wanted it to be self-lit, which makes sense totally.
And so we get the death report of all the casualties here.
How's
so
Carstairs?
The Enterprise needs to be destroyed.
How's Langstrom?
And so now we're getting to where I wanted to be.
Yeah. We're killing. We're killing.
And so Daystrom has to tell his unit that it is behaving incorrectly. It does not see itself as behaving incorrectly. It sees itself as protecting itself. Like it's just trying to live. Like Scotty's been saying the whole live stream. It is true. That is its main objective, along with just running the starship, doing all of the jobs it's supposed to do, and continuing. It must continue so that man can go do other things besides being on a starship.
Well, and that's also like I really appreciate how during this interaction, as Kirk will observe, is M5. It's like this unit must survive, and Daystrom says, "You will. Don't worry, buddy. You're gonna be fine. Just stop killing people."
To kill is a breaking of civil and moral laws we've lived by for thousands of years.
Amazing performance by. That's great.
It is. I wanted to go watch it again while I was making clips. I was like, I'm just gonna sit here and watch it. But oh no, the show's in a few minutes.
I think this is where he realizes his career is over.
His career?
Career? He's not thinking of the career. He's thinking of his.
Well, remember he blurts out and starts saying that, you know.
Oh yeah, he is thinking
when
of
I was
his
young
career.
and
You're
they
right.
thought I was right upstart.
Yes.
And then he's trying to prove himself, and they think that he's old and right.
But this is
yeah, he does
also,
care about how he is perceived by others.
Right.
But this is also his chance. Like he specifically says that my advancements in computer science, I've been spending 25 years to prove that it was not an accident, giving lectures and seminars to peers, and it's just dripping with contempt when he says it, who are building on my work. And it's like, so laughing behind the back of the boy wonder. It's not just that he's trying to save his career. He's trying to prove himself as a man with yet another brilliant creation. Like he wants to say, no, I've done it before. I am capable of doing it again. This wasn't a mistake.
A fluke.
Like he's pleading with the machine itself to say, if you do this, we will both come out on top. Don't worry. And this is why my favorite, and it doesn't show his face. And so I feel a little bad that this is part of the performance, or my favorite clip. And one of the most memorable things is when he does say, oh, where is it? It's here.
To kill. You are great. I am great.
Like, you are great. I created you. You are great. We can do this without killing people. I am great. I created you. I've done this before. We can do this again. It's not about thinking about the loss of his career. It's a loss of control, and it's a loss of dignity. He's trying to save face in front of the entire computer scientific community. And that's why, with a lesser actor, I wouldn't feel that at all. I would feel like this was a crazy man building a Frankenstein. But with this guy, he's not thinking about, oh, I hope people really like me. It's like, no, I've done this and we can do this again. And if you just do what I told you to do, I gave you all of the tools, we can do this. And then when interrupted, because McCoy is like, okay, he's going to crack. He's insane. Then they go up to him and he's like, disconnect him, Kirk. Why? Like, and he's just, that's when he flips out, and it's just like, it's over.
And that's when he needs the Vulcan neck pinch.
That's when he needs the Vulcan neck pinch. And it's just like, I think this is one of the best scenes in all of Star Trek. Like, I'm giving this all of the pluses with all of the A's.
Yeah, me too.
Anyway, I'm done. End of rant.
That was a very good rant. I enjoyed it very much. And we're just getting to that part. So since we talked about it already, I'm going to skip a bit because I paused a bit too much at the beginning. So I'm losing a bit at the end.
Well, it's okay, Jill. You are great. I am great.
Yes, true enough. That's true. So there we go.
It's a trap.
Oh, well, we got to show this part. This is Captain Kirk. You will be under attack in a moment. Oh, that's the part where he starts talking to the computer. So,
your
mighty
starships.
Basically, by giving the computer his brain engrams, he made M5 think like him, which gave it independent thought and self-awareness. And so this episode is also somewhat related to transhumanism and the ethics of what happens when a machine is in that much control. How much moral dilemmas are they responsible for, which is what Jay has been saying the entire live stream. So that is really good that he's been mentioning that quite a bit.
I also think this is one of my favorite Vulcan neck pinches of all time, too.
Pretty good one.
Second only being the guy with the mustache in Star Trek the Motion Picture.
So
Third.
Spock can adjust the severity of the pinch, right?
What was the question? I'm sorry.
So I'm assuming Spock can adjust the severity of the nerve pinch from stunning to knocking somebody out cold to how long they're out cold.
I think it's just a production thing of how we can shuffle him off the bridge because he's not just going to lie there.
That's a good question because I was told recently, and something I never noticed was that the neck pinch on the punk on the bus in Star Trek 4 looked kind of lazy. Maybe it wasn't lazy. It was just a weak neck pinch on purpose to only make him pass out for a couple minutes rather than an hour or so.
Right, and some people react with pain, some don't.
So I like that idea. I don't know for sure, but I love it.
How careless. There was a multi-legged creature crawling on your shoulder.
Oh, and the neck pinch you were talking about, Scotty, that one was when he was going to take a spacesuit and go mind meld with the V'ger, right?
I am entering the V'ger orifice.
Oh, I you know what? We've got to review the motion picture.
We should do it closer to Christmas. It's kind of a winter movie.
Is it?
I don't know. I'm just making this up.
I'm sure. Let's do that.
But you know what we have to do for Halloween?
Mm-hmm. No.
Scream,
what do we have
Blackula, scream.
Maybe. Why not the original?
I don't know. I like the title of the sequel better.
Kind of cool, right? And
Why
so
not
now,
both?
Of course, this is the iconic moment of Captain Kirk's one of the times that he talks the computer to death. And so they wanted to make sure, I think, when they were writing this episode, that they weren't rehashing what happened in the changeling. So this time, I don't know. Oh, wait, actually, this idea came from the writer of the script itself, the Lawrence Wolfe. His idea that the M5 would be drawn to this moral quandary of killing. And then Dorothy Fontana took that idea and gave it to Captain Kirk, and it was amazing.
Well, and I like how the debate, like, because we've had so many Captain Kirk talks a machine to death. I like how it's almost simplistic, as in like a getting to know you with M5, and it's like, what are you supposed to do? Why? And then asks another question. It's like, well, why? And then it's like, well, you did that. What you just did is in contradiction to your programming. So what is the punishment for that contradiction? This unit must die. And it's not the bombastic, ridiculous that we've had before, even though I love all of them. When I say bombastic, ridiculous, I say it with affection. But this is so great. And it's like, why? What is your motivation as the computer?
Well, yeah, sometimes there's some illogic. Yeah, there are different methods of killing the computer, and this is one of them. Having them understand that what they did was wrong, and that, well, I think that the reason why it does kill itself is because of the morality of Daystrom. Daystrom did not want anybody to die. It was the intention for murder was never in the cards or on his mind as something that could be possible. And when it happened, he didn't really know how to handle it. He didn't handle it very well, and unfortunately, he loved the machine more than everybody else. So that was how he handled it. But he still knew that murder was wrong, and so did M5. And that's why Captain Kirk's plan works. And so...
And the simplistic thing, must you survive by murder? This unit cannot murder. Why? Like, I love that. Just like, why can't you? And it's, again, it's a simplistic, it's like a child asking, as opposed to being the dominant figure that that Kirk is. He's more inquisitive, and he's not just expounding on the morality of the situation. He's curious as to the motivation of the implement of destruction.
That's true. Like, he's having an interview with M5, and it's unfortunate that it just had to kill. It would have been really cool if we could have had an AI that didn't kill. But anyway, this episode is so amazing for so many reasons, and it all started with the man that the story by credit is for in this episode, Lawrence N. Wolf. He's a Star Trek fan and a mathematician, and this was his only Star Trek story because this was a spec script. Which means that it's like a script that with attached to a writer who doesn't have an agent. And it only happened because he knew Ray Bradbury, who showed the story to Gene Roddenberry, who was like, "Yeah, this is really great."
Ray Bradbury wrote many stories about AI and replacing people.
Mhm.
He even had one specifically about a man who went on a killing rampage because he was so obsessed with AIs taking over everything. And another one,
like a
story
Luddite.
where a man,
Like the Unabomber?
Another short story where a man couldn't stand the sounds of machines, and he went insane.
Oh, that also reminds me of Better Call Saul, where that guy can't stand any electricity
Oh yes,
being on.
I thought about that. I love Better Call Saul, and I thought about that watching that episode.
Wow. So, given this is one of my favorite episodes, my favorite season 2 episode, doesn't surprise me that the teleplay was crafted by Dorothy Fontana, because she's been script consultant for a while, so I was happy to see another script by her. And there's something that I didn't read earlier from the 365 book. And if anybody has anything to say about the episode, you can feel free to interrupt me. But of course, this is the part where you know what happens to this episode. As season 2 is heading toward the finish line, production money became tighter and tighter, but with the Ultimate Computer's intellectually taut, emotionally engrossing script, teleplay by DC Fontana, story by Lawrence N. Wolf, to keep the audience minds engaged, the producers were able to avoid going back to the well for additional money to create engaging visual elements. They had some existing footage from earlier episodes that would work just fine. The brief visual of the Federation Starbase where Kirk meets Commodore Wesley was a reuse of Deep Space Station K7 from The Trouble with Tribbles. The ill-fated Woden ore freighter was actually the Botany Bay Khan's sleeper ship from Space Seed, and the Enterprise itself should probably have been drawing overtime pay for its multiple appearances in the episode as the Hood, the Excalibur, the Potemkin, and the Lexington, particularly in the scenes where they all appear together, neatly arranged in battle formation, courtesy of an optical printer. And the episode was so then that was the 365 book. The episode was directed by producer John Meredith Lucas. Of the episode, he said, "In cases of the Ultimate Computer, I suppose I liked the M5 because it was another technology as power story, which have always fascinated me." And I was glad that he directed this episode because, of course, he wrote The Changeling, so he would have a good idea of how this kind of thing goes.
Yes, I agree. An excellent job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did. And so then, of course, Dorothy Fontana rewrites Wolf's teleplay to make it Star Trek. And that's good. I'm very happy for that. The interesting thing about it is the original screenplay. Oh wait, no, actually, Bob Dressman doesn't get writing credits, but he did have some ideas that all made it into the script. He says, instead of having the story begin at Starfleet headquarters, I suggest that we do a little rewriting and have the Enterprise parked in space near a space station. Perhaps you are unaware of it, but we had some space station footage composed for Trouble with Tribbles. Since I feel the script ends rather abruptly, I suggest we have some sort of action sequence near the end, which is happening right now on the screen in front of you if you're reading the subtitles there. And which involves the Enterprise and other vessels engaged in these war games. Perhaps we might take the liberty of introducing the Romulan vessel, though. They didn't do the Romulan part, which has slipped into the sector of the quadrant and has stealthily entered into these war games with the ending of wreaking havoc and sowing seeds of confusion amongst Starfleet ranks. Wow. I like the way his mind works. And so there you go. There was a little bit more about how this episode was made, and then we get Bob Wesley back to unfortunately lose a lot of lives, but of course,
Yes.
Kirk figures it out in the end. And even when he defeats the computer, there's still that moment where you think that everything's going to go to hell and the Enterprise is going to be destroyed. But then Kirk does what he does best, which is, of course, gamble. And so he gambled on the humanity of Wesley because he knows Wesley. He's friends with him. So he figured that if he laid down all his arms and took down his shields, that Wesley would say,
Yes, excellent
"Don't
tactic.
fire." And it worked. And I always love when I notice things that are carried into TNG. This is a common TNG trope that Picard uses all the time. Don't raise shields. We don't want to seem threatening. And
Oh yeah, I could talk volumes
I
about
know
that.
you could. I knew you
But that's
could.
also like that's something that
I could hear you.
you
but
know. I understand
Fine.
the hesitance towards it, but also being the pioneer in space exploration that Kirk was. Maybe that's one of the lessons that is just a common like academy lesson, and Picard picked up on it. It was
I
like
would
if you
hope
look.
so.
Like I understand your position on it, Pop. I strongly disagree with it when it comes to the Next Generation because I think that it is an influence from the original series to the Next Generation, and
Yeah,
that
but I just
sort
thought
of
they did it a little
evolution
too
of
often.
diplomacy and you know, not
Right. Well,
necessarily shoot first, apologies later.
no, but you can have a strategic move, or it just seemed like they did it too much. I'll just say that it was just too much.
And that's possible. And that's a fair statement, possibly. But I do love anytime I see something TOS, I'm like, hey, that's a thing I see a lot in TNG. And I know where it comes from now. And that makes me excited.
Well, and especially with this episode where you have the duotronic that goes to the multitronic, and eventually we will get to the positronic. Like it's again, there is a computational evolution that is happening there as well.
There is. And of course, we've got lots of cool things going on in the chat. Kirk is standing on the command chair, raised platform, and Daystrom is standing on the lower level, and Daystrom is almost as tall as Kirk. My child isn't a psychopathic murderer. It's just misunderstood, says Jay Goodwin. Yeah, Daystrom has some severe mental issues that are going to be solved now. It's the end of the episode. He's going to an institution. He's going to be okay. And he's going to go on to have a great career after this, ostensibly because he gets all the things named after him. So I like to imagine that he was healed after this episode. Snortopoopus Cuber says every Starfleet vessel deploys a number of satellites with floodlights to make sure that it's fully lit at all times, especially during close-ups. He cares about his creation, and that's his legacy, much like a parent and child, at least for certain relationships. Daystrom's created M5 and programmed it, so yes, he is to blame for going rogue, and also created his brainwave patterns. As it was also created on his brainwave patterns, Daystrom cracked, and so did M5 because of that. And the AI show says, well, this is the end of the episode. Which do you prefer to have around? And of course, Spock has made it clear that he prefers the crew. He already did, but it's just a good little moment here. Of course, I'm sure nobody's forgetting about the 400 people that died during this fun, happy moment.
Right. Well, right. Didn't want to say that, but yes, they get over it pretty quickly.
Well, yes. Well, it's streaming with you that makes me think of these things, pop culture. You're a good influence. Jay Goodwin says, if Daystrom is responsible, then every programmer at Tesla is also legally and morally responsible for the deaths when autopilot is in use. Yeah, that's a good point. And computers, I think they're in trouble if they don't try to correct it. Like Daystrom didn't. So, but he had health issues. So hopefully those were taken care of, and I love to believe that they were. Computers can be hacked, whether it's a PC, laptop, or AI. That's why you'll never catch me in an AI car.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. Did you watch Will Smith's iRobot? His autopilot car was hacked in the tunnel when the robots attacked him. The only reason the car didn't kill him was that he returned to manual control.
That actually says Manuel control.
Oh, excuse me, Manuel. Manuel was the other AI.
I don't know who Manuel is, but I assume he was driving. I know nothing.
Too bad they couldn't activate the destruct sequence scan. Okay, so guys, I only have 10 minutes because I have so much fun with this. I should have given it another hour. This is my mistake if I can't. So I've got to give my review, and we've got to go. And oh my god, I love you guys so much. I want to hang around and read chats and things, but I've got to give my final thoughts here. I give this an A with all the pluses also. Wait, how many pluses do I give? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 extra pluses. So that's like 145.
145 pluses?
Yeah.
Seems excessive.
Yeah, 9. Well, it might be excessive. With 9, well, yeah. Because 1 A plus is 100. So then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 40. So 140.
That's more reasonable. I accept it.
Okay, great. This episode is exceptional to me because on the first watch, I didn't suspect. I do remember watching this when I was just having turned an adult, and I didn't suspect the force field coming because it was just all about Daystrom and his work and what he's done, and the computer's working and everything's fine, and then everything's not fine suddenly. And as much as Kirk was smacked in the face with the M5 self-awareness, so was I. So first teasing the idea by demonstrating that the computer was acting less in control, less logical, leading to the revelation that it's the synaptic engrams of Daystrom. That was really, really interesting and brought the computer to life for me. The whole idea of the episode and where it came from the mathematician thinking about the future, and how the whole episode helped with the budget. Just it shows that some of the best Star Trek doesn't require the biggest showcases of special effects. Creativity, character, and intelligent story were the magic here. And the issue of automation due to mechanization. Then today, the issue of artificial intelligence continues to remain relevant, and the best Star Trek episodes are timeless in this way. Another reason that I love it is because I really enjoy artificial intelligence stories in general, even cautionary ones like this. But because this is Star Trek, it's also optimistic because the computer is defeated by appealing to the morality that Daystrom implanted in it from his own thoughts. Ethical artificial learning. And I'm thinking I could probably have a whole live stream about this kind of thing, but that can come later. I have so many ideas from this episode, and that is so fun. And so
Taboo.
So what do you rate it, Pop Culture Curator?
Well, I would say definitely an A+. I loved the insight to AI and what it eventually could become, and the fact that, as we mentioned earlier, that now we're seeing it more and more, and it's in the headlines every day, reflecting many industries. I think, and just like with some of the best Star Trek episodes, it's carried by the guest star. I know of a bottle episode that works out exceptionally well, but I think that a lot of it was the casting. I think it was a magnificent choice. The man did an excellent job. Slightly imbalanced. It reminds me of Decker, where he was a good, strong character. He was a good guy, but unfortunately, he was taken down by his own misery and regret and his life, I guess. because Daystrom was a good man too, but his obsession take over, which took it too far. And I know when we get to the end that they quickly wrap it up as he's going to an institute, but we don't ultimately. Do we ever find out? Did they ever mention in future iterations of Star Trek whatever happened to Daystrom? Did he gain his sanity? Did he stay in an institution forever? Was he ever brought up on criminal charges?
No, I don't believe that none of them that was addressed in future Star Trek. So everything I say about his future is just my hopes and just based on the reflection of how he is honored as his legacy is honored through naming institutions after him, and like the Daystrom Institute and everything. So I'm just, no, we didn't get the story. We didn't get any follow-up stories.
No, but it's
I
such
just have hope.
Yeah, but it's such a great character. It makes me wonder. It's too bad they didn't ever explain what happened. They probably did in some books or novels or something.
Right. And as Franco Walker says, Daystrom is never mentioned again, except for as building
The
names.
Institute. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the Leah Brahms episodes of The Next Generation, the first pass at, I think it's is it Booby Trap or I forget. But the introduction of Leah Brahms, the first pass at the script, it was supposed to be Richard Daystrom's
Booby Trap.
Granddaughter, but that was altered.
Oh, it was. Well, please give me your review for this episode, Scotty.
All the pluses, A++, with an interesting perspective on automation and the role of people in a rapidly automized world. I think it's fascinating. I think that having all 7 of our core Trek characters, it warms my heart, and a character dealing with the weight of success moving forward. He's not a bad guy. There is reverence towards him and a sensitivity towards him, but when his project breaks, can you fix it? The answer is no. All right, neck pinch. Who can? Why? I just love it. I think that this is one of my favorite episodes. And I think that at this point, I probably have about a dozen favorite episodes, maybe even 20. And just for the record, everybody, can you please stop saying Will Smith and start referring to him as the guy who slapped Chris Rock? Thank you.
Oh, hey, I need to close the poll. Let me close the poll also. And thank you for your review. And also everything you said during the live stream was great. And so I'm going to end the poll now while I can.
Goodbye, poll.
Bye, poll. And so we've got 81% A range, 15% B range, and 2% C range. And I think we got a B in the chat here, B plus. Where is it? The AI show says B plus, an inevitable technology gone wrong episode, but nicely done because it contrasts the inventor with his creation, which has gone rogue and somewhat sentient. Nice work by William Marshall. Kids can wait. This is more important. The kids can't wait. Actually, yeah, right. That's why I'm rushing here. So, yeah,
You're great. Kids are great.
Kids are great. I love my kids. I will go help them soon.
What a bold choice.
Right?
Loving your children.
Well, they're waiting for mommy. I'm sure they're going to be severely disappointed if she's not there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
oh no,
get over it.
I could be 5 minutes late, and he's severely disappointed in me.
That's why you can just save up for therapy.
Oh my god, all brushed under the rug due to Starfleet being embarrassed over its incompetence at deploying an untested M5 and killing 400 personnel. Thank you, Jay Goodwin. That makes sense too. And
I take it we don't get an M6.
No. And I wanted to say hello in the chat to a new guest here in the chat. Is
cool.
Where is it? Oh, what's his name? John Rufus Shaggy. Thank you.
Ruh-roh.
Very cool. Welcome. Glad to see you. It's always exciting.
Fantabulous. She passed the casting couch test. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I've got it right.
Does that mean like butt stuff?
Oh, I think what?
They were talking about.
They're talking about Leah Brahms. Okay, Leah Brahms was originally going to be a Daystrom, but upon seeing the actress, they changed it. Oh,
makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to close out today with the preview for the next episode. I've got to dash, but let me make sure I'm not forgetting anything important. I don't
Bye-bye,
think so.
everybody.
Do you guys have anything you want to share tonight? You got something going on? What do you got going on? Pop culture.
So tonight we're doing Scanners on my channel. 1991 from Scanners from 1991 at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Be there or be square. Thank you, Jill.
You're welcome. And Scotty, got anything?
Nah, I'm just hanging out. I really enjoy hanging out with you guys, and it's fun to talk about Star Trek. And yeah, this is fun times, Charlie.
Yeah, I agree. Me too.
But
And
also forget, I just want to say fuck Will Smith. That's all I did want to say that.
Oh, but do you want to play video games this week?
Oh yeah, what do you want to play?
I don't know, Doom.
Yeah, we should probably. Well, are we gonna finish it? Do you think we're gonna finish it?
No, I think I'm probably just gonna get through one level,
Okay.
and then we'll just chat.
Yeah, I'm in.
I don't know.
I'm in. Like I'm playing Doom Eternal on my Xbox.
We can talk about
One.
this later. But
yeah, we can. But yeah, let's kill some demons.
Yeah. Justman's idea was revisited in TNG Peak Performance when during the War Games, the Romulans show up to fight for real. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Jack Stafford. Wow, you're awesome. I'm so glad you're here today. And I'm so glad everybody was here today. I wish I could go back and read everything. I'm always saying that, but I really read everything I possibly can. And Jay Goodwin says, great coverage, great TOS episode. Bye, and thank you for the entertainment, says Gavin. And yeah,
we are great. You are great.
We are great. All are great. Everybody's great. And he was listening earlier. And he popped in to say hi. Yeah, hey Cam. I always love seeing him around. Lol, I just finished Quake 2. Oh yeah, Quake's great too. Group hug. James
Yay, let's all slow dance.
Oh, okay. Now let's go. See you guys later.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Captain's log aboard the USS Exeter. What could have happened to the over 400 men and women who were on this ship?
Germans are prudent leave. They're still here.
Wu is 462 years old.
His father is well over 1,000.
They sacrificed hundreds just to throw us out in the open. We killed thousands and they still came.
Fight is done when one is dead.
We gotta do something.
All right, move along. Done. Stop it. Get off of the things. Go outside. Get some food. It's like, it's a time of day where you live. Go do something. Shut up, Snoopy. I don't care. You smoke too much. Let's go. Let's go adventure. Let's go explore.